If you've ever started your day with donuts and coffee, then you'd be my producer. Also, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Folks, welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook. Today is going to be Wednesday, May 7th, and it's a big day because we've got that Fed stuff going on later today. We're not expecting any changes in rates, but that meeting is going to happen. How is his tone going to be? How's the market going to take it? What are we going to do? I want to hear from y'all about what to expect. We have some earnings to cover. We have a little news to cover. So let's go ahead and kick off this hump day. Wednesday, May 7th. Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook starts right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. Great to see a whole bunch of returning faces. Great to have the early birds with us here again. Kayla, hello. Good morning. Pete, good morning. Welcome back. Brett, good morning. Couch Potato, good morning. Paul, good morning. Chuck, Prudnica, and Charles, good morning. Charles, you want to take a look at Palantir and Uber. We're definitely going to be looking at both of those stocks here today. I'm not surprised about Palantir or Uber with them reporting earnings. Absolutely. Added to the list. Ashok, good morning. Great to see you again. Harley, good morning. Crimp Biscuit, good morning. Sun-Kissed Yogi, good morning. Graf and Bernhard, welcome back. Yassine, well, Yassine and Yasso Fine. I love our Ys checking in here. Good morning, Yassine. Good morning, Yasso Fine. JJ, good morning. RL, good morning. Dustin, good morning. Dr. World's Yours. Good morning. And actually, in Yassine, you want to add Carvana. Let me go ahead and add that to the list as well. Hello, Lynn Adams. Good morning. And hello. Uber earnings massive, red to green probably. You know, the earnings response on Uber is actually really impressive. We'll definitely check that out here. We'll see if it goes red-green. There could be a trade if it does, because remember, we got that huge double top. We'll take a look at Uber here in a sec. Josh, good morning. Lion, good morning. Dustin wants to take a look at TEM, added to the list. Had my caps lock on. Added to the list. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to start with the SPY. Let me share my screen. Oh, and it's a Wednesday. We're going to have Tim Melvin back today, so get fired up for that. All right, here is your chart for the SPY. I did kind of draw, like, basically I'll just show you what I drew here. I went to an intraday chart and I basically just drew a very quick, I eyeballed the trend line here. So far it actually looks like we're breaking this trend line. I'm gonna leave it on here and see what happens throughout the course of the day. I don't really think that there's necessarily a specific number that we need to talk about here. It was just a basic overall trend that I was observing, and we've since broken that trend. And actually, we're kind of holding the bottom end of the trend line. So I'm going to be looking for this intraday. We'll see what happens here, but I just wanted to explain what that line on the chart is. Now, going back to the daily chart, we're still in really good shape, at least in my opinion. We have now 4 closes, above the 50-day moving average. That should absolutely make that prior resistance now some pretty sticky support. So hopefully we can stay above that. Also, that 552 level or that 551.91 level that we've been observing for some time, that should also be quite sticky and quite supportive. So I really think that our downside here, at least in the near term here, 554.5 is going to be your 50-day moving average, and then let's just call it 552 for the 10% pullback level. We'll see what happens with the market today. Again, I really don't think we're expecting any type of movement on interest rates. I think we're expecting Powell to hold steady here. But as my producer said in his morning notes, it might turn into a steel cage death match between the two-time champion Donald Trump and Jay Powell. We'll see who wins this epic bout. All that nonsense aside, frankly, I think that there's going to be no change here. Really, it's going to come down to, what does he say? How does he sound? What does he say about the future and all that? So some of these levels that we're looking at, maybe they come into play after the announcement and after the question and answer section, which is really where we get the most movement. Maybe we'll get that same behavior where we get a fake out move on the first direction and then the real move happens second. We'll see how it all shakes out. The other number, or the other level that I want to pay attention to, is going to be this 568 and change. We actually, let's see, we got to about 568, 568 on Monday. So let's see if we can actually get above that here today, if the market is constructive at all. Or if we break down, do we actually hold that 50-day? This is kind of what I'm looking for here. Really, none of this matters, frankly, until we get this FOMC decision. So the morning here, I don't know. I think we might have to go after some individual names, but we'll see how it shakes out. Let's take a really quick look at some of the news here. Won't spend a lot of time on this. We kind of just went over this. The 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.32%. The 2-year bond was at 3.8. Let's see. Here we go. I wanted to go to some of these insights here. Ed Yardini from Yardini Research. Quote, "We reckon that the economy would remain resilient. We still think so, but Trump's tariff turmoil, the TTT, as they call it, I actually really like that, is stress testing the resilience of the economy. It will probably slow economic growth and boost inflation. A short bout of stagflation is likely." This seems to be the big thought here. I know Tim Melvin is in this camp. So we'll see if this ends up checking out. Nathan Peterson, director of derivatives analysis at the Schwab Center for Financial Research, said that the AI-led optimism was booming again, despite tariff woes. Quote, "The sentiment around AI's secular growth story feels like it's been resurrected, and the market seems more sanguine around companies' ability to navigate potential impact of tariffs." It definitely seems like some companies just really don't care about these tariffs. Seems more of like a hype thing, while other companies are blaming them for things. So again, a lot of calculus to shake out here. He's doing his best to make a generalization. According to Cooper Howard, director of fixed income strategy at the Charles Schwab Center for Financial Research, quote, "The Fed will likely try to signal that they are on hold for the time being and want to wait for more clarity about how tariffs will or won't impact the economy. The market's projecting 3 cuts this year, which has been pared back from earlier expectations." So this is kind of what I wanted to get to. How many cuts do you think we're actually going to get here? Because I think you could make the case then that if the market is still expecting 3 or 4 cuts, and we only get maybe 1 or 2 or 0, frankly, they're saying they're going to be data dependent. So let's see what the data is. How do you think the market takes that? I got to imagine that the market is going to move lower on that, at least in the near term, and it will probably be blamed on Trump, because that's what we're seeing out of things like this. So it'll be very interesting to see how many cuts. Let me know in the chat how many you think we're getting this year. And if you have an idea of when, let me know when. I'm thinking no more than 2, and I'm thinking we definitely get one of those cuts in December. So we're talking end of the year. I think I have to sneeze. I'll keep going until it comes up here. Okay. Next. Here we go. Will Powell defy Trump again? Question mark. Here what the Fed's chair might say on Wednesday. Again, if you folks have any predictions on what's coming up here, I definitely want to hear it. The 2-day Federal Reserve Open Market Committee kicks off on Tuesday and concludes with the federal funds rate decision on Wednesday. Economists broadly agree the Fed will keep interest rates unchanged. However, a growing divergence on Wall Street reveals deep uncertainty over how long that pause will last, largely driven by Trump's trade tariffs and potential inflationary spillovers. Much of the press conference is expected to focus on Powell's response to recent pressure from Trump to lower interest rates, which had fueled fresh concerns within the financial community about the Federal Reserve's independence. I don't think there is any problem here. Judging by what Powell has done in the past, I would imagine he would probably address this very quickly and move on. I really don't think this is going to be what a majority of the press conference is like, and I don't think anything has changed here. I don't think Powell cares really about any of Trump's saber rattling, to be quite honest with you. I think the people that care about that are the normies and the people in the media. I really don't think Powell cares at all what Trump says. We'll see how this ends up playing out. CME FedWatch tool data, which tracks interest rate expectations via Fed futures pricing, shows a 97% probability that the Fed will keep rates in the 4.2 to 4.5 range in May. This, to me, should be 100%. I don't see how they could possibly move here today, but Again, we'll see. Money markets are pricing in a 31% odds of a 25 basis cut by June and 78 by July. So the market's telling you at least 3/4 of the market is saying, hey, we're going to have at least one of those cuts by the July meeting. Do you agree with that? Do you not agree with that? Do you think there's going to be more or less? Brett here saying 0 cuts. Okay, that's great. Let those predictions fly. Asmama, let me know if I pronounced that correctly. I think nothing new will happen. The market is already priced in. This is kind of where I stand. I think you're probably right on that. I don't think anything happens today. I think the market's prepared for it. Really, what this comes down to is, what does the market read through, like I was saying earlier, on Powell's tone and all of these things. I think you're spot on that. And Tom, I agree with you. Powell is confident in himself. I completely agree with that too, which is why I really don't think that saber rattler, whatever you want to call it, bullying, whatever. I don't think any of that matters, frankly. I really don't think he's affected by that. Let's see. Bank of America rate strategist Mark Cabana indicates that the markets have gone too far. Quote, market pricing expects a 15 bips cut by the June FOMC and nearly 40 bips by July. We think this is overdone. He added that economic surprise indices remain relatively stable, suggesting the Fed has room to be patient. This is exactly what the Fed is telling us, too. In addition to what Mark's observing here, this is literally what they're telling us, and that they're going to be data dependent. That makes a lot of sense. So this is kind of what, Brett, you're talking about 0 cuts. I'm thinking I don't think we get the full 3 cuts. Looks like Mark's kind of leaning that way too, without saying it for sure. For any of you that do think we're getting cuts, when do you think the first month we get cuts is? June, July? I certainly don't think there's anyone here that thinks we're going to get it in May. According to Cabana, Powell may address U.S. Treasury liquidity. Quote, we expect Powell to say the Fed is monitoring conditions closely, but that overall they appear orderly, downplaying the likelihood for any immediate Fed intervention. This is pretty much what we see across the board, right? Oxford economist Ryan Sweet said the Fed will likely stay on hold and avoid offering concrete guidance. Powell, quote, Powell will stick with the mantra that the Fed needs more information, projecting no cuts until December. Ryan Sweet. That's a really good name, by the way, Ryan. So I'm not surprised that you also think December. That's kind of what I'm looking at here, too. I reserve the right to be data dependent as well, but right now I'm thinking December. Sweet also sees the Fed aggressively easing in 2026 as tariff-induced inflation fades and labor market slack emerges. Still keeping an eye on gas here. Crude here up just under 1% here today. I can't believe how inexpensive gas is. And I think that's being looked at more and more and more here. Tariff clouds outlook as Fed balance and inflation employment. ING economist James Knightley said overt pressure from President Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to slash interest rates is unlikely to sway the Fed. So all of this stuff that's going on, probably not going to do anything anyway. Quote, presidential demands for lower interest rates are falling on deaf ears, end quote. Noting that stagflation risks remain, but inflation should trend back towards the target by late 2026. Goldman Sachs economist David Miracle, I am butchering his name, sorry about that, sees a similar dynamic playing out. He expects Powell to reiterate that the Fed is waiting for clearer evidence before cutting. Survey data have deteriorated quickly, but hard data have yet to weaken. The Fed will want to see more convincing signs before acting. And then ETFDB.com analyst Sumit Roy added that the Chinese targeted tariffs remain in place. The drag on economic growth will be, quote, unavoidable. In his view, that could force the Fed's hand, even with inflationary risks still in play. So, all right. Got some opinions from across the board there. Let me know what you think here. Let me know what you think the Fed is going to do, and perhaps more importantly, what they should do. All right, let's also, I really quickly wanted to go through the morning update. I also wanted to inform you folks that this has actually now been released to Pro. So we had talked a little bit about how you could access this on beta, as well as some of our other features. Well, this is now available in the full-blown Pro. And if you want this to automatically appear in the morning, we have that feature too. Simply click on the gear cog and click initial load. And now your morning update will load every time that you load Pro. So obviously we have the FOMC statement today. That's going to be the big event of the day that happens at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can see here we've green across the board here in the futures market. Although the S&P futures have fallen from their highs, they're only up about 0.3 right now. So that's moving down a little bit. We do have an IPO here today. Okay. IPOD, Dune Acquisition Corporation. It looks like it's priced at $10. IPOD, new IPO here today. We've seen some of these recent IPOs, even if they're quote unquote crappy, really kind of go off for a trading opportunity. So be prepared for that. We never really know what time this is going to happen. IPOD, though, should be set for initial public offering this morning. As far as conferences go, we still have the Citizens Life Conference, Citizens Life Sciences Conference, I beg your pardon, as well as the Barclay Conference. We've got Needham tomorrow that Riot's going to be reporting at. So definitely some stocks that we talk about here might be moving moving soon with on the back of that conference. Easy for me to say. My goodness. We did have some more analyst initiations here. Solar Edge, which is one that we've been looking at pretty recently. EA, this has been an absolute monster. Buying this down in the 118s or in the 1-teens, this really just kind of originated from Mark Petrino. I traded this I think 3 or 4 times, rolling calls out and up. This thing has continued to bounce back. The chart looks amazing. Let's actually just go to the chart here real quick. Oh, you know what? I should put it in my good chart. That's easier to see. Sorry about that. Let's just take a quick look at the chart here and just kind of appreciate what we've got on EA. What is going on with my God? What the heck's going on? I can't see anything. Here we go. Okay. Man, oh man. I'm sorry. I should have had this queued up here. This is not working very well. Here's the EA chart. We started trading this on this earnings drop right down here. Right down here in the teens. And look at the comeback that this thing has made. Not only did it fill the gap and cross some of these moving averages, we're actually making a run towards some of these highs. EA here up nearly 5% in the pre-market. You can see we actually popped in the after hours yesterday. Take a look at that. They beat earnings yesterday. Let's see what their guide says. Electronic Arts Q1 GAAP EPS 49 cents to 66 cents. The estimate was 44, so that's above the estimate there. Sales 1.55 to 1.65. The estimate was 1.28. So it looks like a really good report here on EA. I tell you what, this has been probably one of the better trades of the year, frankly. Just more continuation here. Congrats to anyone that caught Electronic Arts. Let me just go back really quickly to the morning update. I want to run through a few more things here. Jazz Pharmaceuticals, this occasionally gets talked about or traded here. Datadog is on this list as well. For earnings, we actually have this. So we had Uber here this morning. That was probably one of the bigger ones here today. But after hours today, don't forget, we've got AppLovin, Fortinet, and DoorDash. Those are probably going to be your biggest. Honorable mention out there to ARM from the semi-land. But DoorDash probably going to be the big one that we're focusing on here today. That comes after hours. And then as far as downgrades here, really nothing. EQNR did get downgraded. I don't know how many folks trade that. And as far as upgrades, Logitech, the one on there that people would probably recognize as that was given a buy rating there. So that's pretty much it here for the morning report. Let me see. Let's see. What did I have next here for you? I did want to talk a little bit about Ackman and the gradual tariff escalation plan. This made its rounds on Twitter yesterday, or X, Twitter, whatever you call it. It was making its rounds yesterday. Perhaps this caused some market movement, but there's some back and forth here. Let me just break it down, and then we'll go to Tim Melvin here. We'll talk to him about what he sees in the market. On Tuesday, billionaire investor Bill Ackman suggested that Trump implement a gradual escalating China tariff strategy to encourage fair trade negotiations and help U.S. companies adjust without triggering sudden economic disruption. Taking the X, he laid out his proposal. Rather than imposing large tariffs abruptly, he suggested starting with 20% and increasing it 0.5% per month in the first year, 1% per month in the second year, and 1.5% per month in the third year, and continue this pattern indefinitely, I suppose. To the extent China modifies its unfair trade practices, the increase could stop and potentially be reversed depending on the degree of involvement in these trade policies. He added, the approach would incentivize companies to relocate their supply chains from China while enabling them to continue to operate profitably during the transition. I personally totally disagree with this. I think that this shows weakness. I think that Xi would literally eat Trump's lunch if he tried something like this. Trump is trying to use the leverage that he has. Why he would give it away on the silly tiered plan doesn't really make any sense to me. This seems like it comes from somebody that holds a lot of stock. That's what it sounds like to me. China's Ministry of Commerce released a separate statement warning that if the U.S. were to act contrary to its stated intentions or use dialogue as cover for pressure tactics, China would not tolerate such behavior. Oh, yeah, by the way, they are meeting. They are having talks. China has said that recently. A recent poll shows that the trade war has negatively affected President Trump's approval ratings among young Americans who are frustrated by the price increase by tariffs. I would say, what is increased that they're buying? I'd be very curious. That'd be my follow-up. Still waiting on that, by the way. Okay, here's the SPY chart, but I know that this is y'all's favorite time of the week. Favorite time of the week. It is time for Tim Melvin. Let's bring him on. Let's see what kind of spiciness and picks he's got today. All right, Tim, good morning. I set you up for this. What do you got for us today?
All right. Am I on there? Okay, I'm in the show. There we go.
Live. We'll do it live.
Live. Okay, first off, let me just say this. If you're paying any attention to what Bill Ackman has to say on any topic whatsoever, go back into Mr. Ackman's portfolio and you will understand his political position. This guy, don't get me wrong, Ackman's a brilliant investor, or at least most of his career has been a brilliant investor. He's a whiny little fella.
Yeah.
Now, on tariffs, no, you don't listen to Ackman on tariffs. I wish we didn't listen to Navarro on tariffs. And, there's this school of thought, and it's getting really prevalent out here. That's like, oh, it's over. China's, talking. They're going to start talking. We've had no talks with China yet. We're going to start talking later on. China's going to play hardball.
Yes, they are.
This is not over, ladies and gentlemen. And look, if you think we're going to get out of this without some stagflation, you're smoking that good stuff really early, and you didn't send any to Ryan and I, and that's upsetting. So, containers incoming to the West Coast are already down 60%. They went down 60% the first day. They stayed there. There will be shortages of stuff. There will be higher prices. There will be some economic slowing. Now, is it going to be the end of the world level? Yeah, no. The smartest money on the planet is saying 1.5 on the GDP, 1.5 on inflation. We can deal with that as long as this doesn't escalate between the United States and China. So it's going to be messy. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to sting. We don't know the outcome just yet, but yeah, prices are going to go up. We've crossed that Rubicon. Okay. And I hate this kind of market because it is so politically dominated right now.
Yeah. It does make it tough. I'm with you on that. I actually would prefer it not be like that, Tim.
So let me. I was talking to a friend last night overseas, and he teaches a course on technical analysis, and which means if he can spell technical analysis correctly, he does it better than me. So that's not kind of my strength. But he said, look, the most important thing in this market right now is to know your time frame. Right? If you're trading short term today, then who cares what Ackman said? Who cares what Trump says? Nobody cares about anything.
Yep.
Prices are over the 20-day, and they're probably going to go over the 50-day today. You should be long. Okay. Now, if your trade in the Tim Melvin timeframe, which is a long time, until it works, basically, is what's always kind of worked for me. Um, we're in a different environment. Warren Buffett said something, and I touched on this last night's session, really important in the Berkshire Hathaway call. And again, I want to thank Warren personally for having that call on my birthday weekend. It just sets up a great day for me. I've got the Berkshire call in the morning, and then they throw that nice horse race for me later in the day on my birthday Saturday. So it makes for a great birthday.
Did you win, by the way? I did. I did buckets for the Kentucky Derby. I pulled sovereignties, so it was a good Saturday.
You know what? This year with the move and everything going on, I didn't have time to spend on horses. However, I'm now back within a drive of the Kentucky racetracks. Right? So we will, my wife are already planning. We're going to go to the spring meet in Lexington. So we'll probably go to the Bluegrass Stakes, and I'll be a little bit more up on horse racing next year, but I'm worthless to you this year.
Okay, well, this is really good. We're getting some breaking news here. Tim is also going to be able to help us with horse picks. Tim, I'm ready for your trifectas and all your pony bets. Let's do it.
Now we did have a
belated birthday, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, talking about major system failures and how systems change over time. A bunch of us used to go to the track every year. Traders from New York, and guys from the SIBO, guys from the Merc in New York City, some futures guys, and we would all meet, and we would none of us were married at the time, obviously, and we would just drink tons and tons of bourbon, and we'd hang out at the tracks and we'd have a ball. And so one guy knew nothing about horses, none of it. We're all sitting there when we've got spreadsheets and racing forms and formulas, and he decided he was just going to bet on the horse that had the pink colors in every race. He smoked us like 3 years in a row.
That's awesome.
Smoked us. But yesterday he had the pink horse, and the pink horse has stopped winning. So it's a system failure. Systems change over time. But anyway, going out to the longer form of the market, Buffett said, somebody asked him, with all this volatility, Warren, have you been able to take advantage of any of the great bargains being created? And Buffett's reply was along the lines of, and I wish Munger had been alive for this one, because we'd have gotten to hear somebody called a dumbass at the Berkshire meeting, which used to be the highlight of every meeting. It wasn't a good meeting till Munger called someone a dumbass. He said, look, nothing's changed. There are no great bargains. We've not had this massive sell-off. It doesn't look like 87 or 2008 or the 70s. This isn't an inventory creation event yet. So that means if you're looking at a longer term time frame, you're not bullish, because nothing's changed. Going from a 29 PE on the S&P 500 to a 27, this does not stir up the animal spirits in the longer term crowd. Okay.
What level would, Tim? Do you have a thought on that offhand?
17 and under.
Okay, so that's almost a third.
Yeah,
of where it's a third lower.
Yeah,
that's substantial.
That is substantial, but remember, it doesn't have to be lower. It can be earnings growing.
Sure.
I am an advocate and proponent and deep believer that we're staring in the face of a lost decade.
Okay.
All right. This is not necessarily bad news. If you go back and you look at the 70s, you look at 2000 to 2010, there's opportunities to make a ton of money. You passively own the indexes, or you do what everybody else does in the 70s, two things will happen. You'll make no money, and B, your day trading dreams will explode into waiting tables. I mean, that's just how that story is going to go. You got to think outside the box, or it won't work well for you. Okay. So
I did really quickly want to highlight one of Chris's comments here. Let's remember, oil is in a bear market. It barely avoided making a new low on the daily just a few days ago. Cheap oil will help combat inflationary pressure this summer.
Absolutely.
And I reiterate, every single person and their mother is calling for empty shelves.
Well, sometimes you have to remember, sometimes every single person and their mother is right. And here's the thing. You're not going to magically generate those ships from China. They stopped sailing. So at least short term, there will be some spaces on the shelf. Now, it's not showing up yet. It's going to start showing up a little bit later this month. Trucks will stop, will run into shortages sometime in June if we continue down this road. Now, those ships have not sailed since April 2nd. It's been a 60% decline. It hasn't changed. So sometimes for the short run, everyone and their mother are absolutely correct. I don't like it any more than you do because I don't like most people, and their moms and I probably won't get along. However, there's a good chance they're going to be right in here. Okay. So, lost decade, and if you're under 50, you don't think it can happen, right? But it can happen. And, from 1968 to 1982, nobody made a nickel. I mean, from 1929 to 1942, nobody, or 1952, I think it was, nobody made a nickel. That's a little longer than a decade, but we'll throw in a depression and a world war and get that an exemption. But 2000 to 2010, nobody made any money, in the indexes in the broader market.
Yeah.
And these periods, by the way, tend to have brutal drawdowns and vicious snapback rallies. So if you're willing to stand against consensus, there's money to be made, but you're going to have to stand against consensus. So
that's something we try to do around these parts here. That's why we like bringing you in too, Tim.
That's one of the things I was going to say is, Benzinga Pro has a lot of tools that are going to help you stand against the consensus. Remember, the two people that made all the monies in the 70s, right? There were two groups of people: value-oriented people, and that includes the high yield bond crowd that were doing fallen angels. That includes Warren Buffett buying stocks. That includes the risk arbs, made fortunes. And trend followers just got ridiculously rich. Now, those are the two most out of favor schools of investing and trading on the planet, are trend following and value investing. They work, they're boring, but it's that boring part that kills everybody. So maybe we need to go back to looking at some of that type of mental setup for what's getting ready to come. But the Shiller PE is 34. The trailing 12-month PE is 26. Market cap to GDP ratio is 186. That's the second highest, the highest being back in 2021. This ain't a cheap market. You can't make a case for it being a cheap market. You can say that the short-term trend is up, but it's not a cheap market. So let's kind of keep that in mind. Now, what's cheap right now? Energy is cheap and real estate is cheap. Now, this is where I start to get really interested, because I go back and I look and I say, okay, what's worked in past lost decades? Energy and real estate. And oil prices are falling through the floor. And here's one for you. Everybody and their mother think oil's going lower. Okay. This time, I think everybody and mom are probably a little bit right, but mostly wrong. All right. Because there's going to be a floor in oil. Here's what's going. We talked about this again last night, Ryan. And there's a great letter from the CEO of Diamondback Energy, Fang.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, look, guys, we're at a tipping point here in energy prices. We're at that level where we've got to make a choice. We can either try to pump and drill our way through this or cut production. Last time we tried to pump and drill our way through a slowdown, half the industry went bankrupt and all of the offshore industry went bankrupt. So what's going to happen now is you're going to see oil and gas companies begin to cut production in the United States. It's a big part of what's going on in oil. It is lack of demand. It's lack of demand, concerns of a slowing economy in the U.S., lack of demand coming out of China. But this is also OPEC trying to reassert some domination over the market. They're trying to force the U.S. to cut production, and it's going to work. So production cuts allow the oil and gas companies to defend their balance sheets, to continue to buy back stock, to pay dividends. In other words, they're not going to worry about making the government happy. They're not going to try to please the Trump administration. They're going to try to make their shareholders happy, because they're the ones that figured out that the shareholders are the only ones that are going to love them, forever, as long as they take care of them. And yes, Lonnie, I did say real estate is cheap. Commercial real estate is cheap. Now, housing in selected markets, not cheap. But if you look at apartments, you look at office buildings, hotels, cheap, very cheap. Warehouses, really cheap. Yes, and don't drill, baby, don't drill. That's exactly the policy we're going to see. That is eventually going to put some kind of floor into oil prices. Now, as we talked about last night, oil and gas is this massive pain trade right now. Right. So we'll go ahead and we'll get to the pain trade and then we'll get to the easier trade. But when you look at oil and gas, and I'm not saying run out and throw all your money into these today, but I'm saying as oil continues to its make its way lower, you want to be watching the high yield dividend stocks. I particularly love the non-owner operators. Think Vitesse, VTS, Granite Ridge, GRNT. I like the oil and gas royalty companies, right? And yeah, you're going to get a K1. Suck it up, Buttercup. You know, you're counting, you're going to pay them a little bit more. But as these things pull back, the greatest thing you can see would be Blackstone Royalty Trust or Dorchester Mineral, that's BSM and DMLP, cut their distribution for a period. I will go into just a frenzy of happiness because I've seen it before. You know, in 2020 we saw it. In 2015 we saw it. Same thing with once that happens, it's all up from there. And you see the prices explode, the distributions come back, and they grow rapidly. Look, guys, we don't live in a world where we're going to have a permanent decline in oil and gas demand anytime soon. I know that there are activists that would love for you to believe that. There are politicians of a certain stripe that would love for you to believe that. It's simply not true. We're going to use oil. We're really going to use a lot of natural gas, Ryan, because look, even if we all get up tomorrow and say, you know what, we're going back to nuclear, we're going full bore, we're going full speed ahead, we're going to ignore all the local yokels and the protests and the regulatory agencies, we're going to tell the states to go pound sand, we're going to build nukes like China builds nukes, we're just going to do what we want. It's 5 years. It's 5 years from turning the first shovel to the plant producing the first watt of electricity. There's got to, and by the way, we're not doing that. So the average build time in the United States remains 10 years. I doubt we see small modular reactors in a meaningful fashion till 2030. We're going to continue to use an enormous amount of oil, but especially natural gas. So as this stuff gets cheaper, production begins to get cut back around the world. You need to understand these stocks are going to continue producing. And what we want to do is put ourselves in a position where we're collecting streams of cash. We're not making bets on the profitability of the company. We're getting a royalty or a percentage from oil and gas as it comes up out of the ground.
Anne Marie in the chat saying regulation is the problem there. Also, don't forget the administration has even told us this. You can expect more deregulation later this year. Yeah, so to your point about the timeline, I'm not disputing that at all. I think that's a really good point. But watch for some of that. Watch for some of that deregulation later this year.
Deregulation will come later this year for the oil and gas industry. Yeah. It's not going to make them turn the pump back on.
Yeah, no. I think we're also talking about like nuclear. Like we might get some more insight there. Emery saying the nuclear industry is very overregulated. I'm almost wondering if they start with that, or if they do any of that.
That and I'm just spitballing. No, and it's a good spitball because I'd love to see it. I don't think it'll happen, and for the simple reason, this is not a 4-year college engineering degree, if that makes sense, right? You've got this small body of people that really understand this industry, and it's good. There's a lot to unravel and to work on here. So, and yes, they did just finish some additions to Savannah. Georgia came online. Go back and look when the first shovel was turned. Okay, it takes a long time to get this done in the United States. Yeah. I wish it weren't true because, like a lot of you, I know and understand that nuclear is the biggest path to green energy and to meet our energy demand. Yep. And yes, we don't use that much of the
methane. But you can't make it go faster. That's the thing.
No, that's the thing. I can't. You really can't make it go all the. Look, in China builds it where they want. They do what they want. If you protest, you disappear. I mean, China is very authoritarian. They do whatever they want, wherever they want. It's still 5 years, guys. It's still 5 years. So the point being, nuclear is part of the future, but it's down the road. Renewable. And, even if you hate the idea of renewables and you think it's right, it's not. I mean, solar is still the fastest growing. There's a major role for this. However, it's decades down the road. Everybody's figuring out what I said 5 years ago. Energy transition is not a 2035 game. I will not live to see net zero unless we first get some really cool breakthrough that allows me to go back and look like I'm 35, have hair, and live to be 170.
Hey, don't rule that out. Hims might have something for you in a few years.
You know what? But you got to put the life extension on there too. I mean, having good hair is not enough of a reason in and of itself to hang around. I want the longevity and the hair. I'm selfish. So,
No,
but barring that, I won't see energy net independence. My grandchildren might. But all of this works together, and natural gas is going to be a part of this for a very long time. Okay. So GRNT, Blackstone, Dorchester Minerals, we still like Civitas. We love everything in the
CIVIs.
Yes.
Okay.
We love all of the midstream, and you're going to get a K1, and you need to quit caring about K1s. Somebody somewhere said K1s were evil, but look, it's going to cost you a little bit more to file your taxes. 10 minutes after you put your taxes in the mail or you hit the send button, you will get a corrected K1 and have to refile some stuff. Okay. I mean, that's literally happened to me almost every time since the 1990s. You get it all done and ready and you get a corrected K1. You can live with it because if you buy these things when they're out of favor, like Energy Transfer, like Enterprise Product Partner, like Plains All American, you're buying everything that's required to move energy from point A to point B, and you're collecting a fee. Now, the important things from a tax point of view to understand is that distribution is not taxable. It's a reduction in basis. So it's not taxable until you have a negative basis. Now, that allows you to defer a bunch of taxes. And also, let's say you've got a 10% yield. For the next 10 years, all of that's deferred, and you're turning your dividend into a capital gain because you're reducing your basis. So it's actually a positive. It's a bit of pain in the butt with the K1. And if it's throwing off unrelated business taxable income, do not buy it in your IRA.
Yeah.
That will cause you a nightmare. That's where some people have gotten in trouble. So it's, like Blackstone Minerals and Dorchester Minerals and all the royalty trusts, they do file a K1. They have no UBTI. Okay. So you can put those in an IRA. So UBTI, you really got to watch that. I love Energy Transfer. And I remember having a deep, long argument with somebody back in 2020 about K1s and how they were evil and nasty, and they were just going to cause you so many problems. They just weren't worth it. Well, guys, you've more than doubled your money and collected 10% every year along the way. And most of the income was tax deferred as we went through it. So if your big problem was that you paid your accountant an extra $250, put down your pencil, turn off the computer, and walk away. This isn't for you. Okay.
Mark here. K1 stink. Absolutely correct about the correction showing up usually on April 16th.
Right. They do. And I didn't. And look, you want to delay the K1? Easy peasy. File an extension. Then they're going to show up on November 16th. It's just how it works.
Okay.
So, but you need to be, now I'm not saying, as I said, I'm not saying you got to run out and buy this right now because there's a lot going on. OPEC turning the pumps back on.
And by the way, real quick here, I know we're talking a lot. I put this article in the chat earlier. This is Tim's article that is part of Benzinga Edge, by the way, that outlines this entire thing that he's talking about here. So go ahead and take a look at that. Hang on to that if you need it. Tim, appreciate going through all this stuff.
Oh, no problem. So look, you and again, what's your time frame? If you're trading short term, if you're day trading and you expect this to go up by the end of the day, well, again, put down the pencil, turn off the computer, walk away. This isn't for you. This is a longer term setup, but you need to be watching the setup and taking advantage of pullbacks in these markets because prices may get weaker. Saudis are certainly trying to do that, but the two things to keep in mind. The U.S. is going to cut production. almost, I'm going to say almost every, because I didn't read them all, but every transcript I've read so far of a conference call, they've talked about cutting production. Okay. And Civi's not a 15% dividend. They actually reduced the dividend. So it's
I have this at
it's
about
about a
7 here.
7.5, I think.
Yeah,
it is.
7.7 right now is what I have on the last read there.
So that's
actually payable to holders of record 2 days from now. So that goes ex-div 2 days from now. How about that? That's Friday. You get paid out on the 20th. Well, there you go. This is good timing.
Yep. So that's, and again, you're not going to pick the bottom here. So it's important. You want to be collecting these big streams of cash.
What a great buy this was during COVID and 4.
Yes. Now, let's say, is the production cut part of forecasting a recession, or is it to keep prices? Saudi cut production they're doing a couple things. They're particularly Saudi Arabia pushing this forward. They're trying to appease Donald Trump, right? Because it's Saudi heavy crude that we use to produce gas, not domestic light sweet crude. We import most of our gasoline stock, the heavy crude oil, because we don't produce it here. So Saudi and other members of OPEC Plus are trying to appease the administration, help them along with their lower gas goals. They're trying to punish members of the coalition that were selling at the higher prices created by production cuts out the back door. We're looking at Russia, Venezuela, and a couple other nations that, try to get a little fancy and collect some extra cash thanks to everybody else's production cuts. So this is going to be a little bit punitive to them because it's bringing everybody's price down. But the real reason for the Saudi cuts is exactly the same reason. I'm sorry, the Saudis increased production back in 2014. It's to force the U.S. oil and gas industry to cut their production as well. So it really is the U.S. production cut. It's to manage the balance sheet and play defense. It's not necessarily forecasting a recession per se. There's a production increases globally in order to support that price and to keep from going bankrupt, to keep paying down debt, to keep buying back stock, and to keep paying dividends. That's why they're going to cut production. A recession is a tough call here because at this level, the hits that we see happening to GDP and to the increase in inflation, and then offset that with really high inventory levels that have been pre-built that are going to help assist shortages a little bit in some segments of the industry, of the economy, and lower gas prices, that's going to help some. So if you take 1% out of GDP and add 1% to inflation, that's not awful. That's mild stagflation. It's not a recession. So I don't think anybody in the oil industry is predicting that. They're just dealing with these production increases.
Okay.
So,
all right, what else you got for us? What other goodies you got for us, Tim?
Well, let's go with the goodies. Now, this is the easy play, not the pain trade. Okay, this is the trade that you can put on just anytime you see the bond markets down. Because the other thing that did really, really well in every single recession, lost decade that we've had is fixed income. And particularly, you want to be looking here, I think, at a couple of things. You want to be looking at the higher end of the junk bond market, i.e. double B bonds. That's the sweet spot of the bond market. I could waste 3 hours of your time with a technical explanation of that. Let me just tell you that double B bonds do better than investment grade bonds, and they do much better than lower grade junk. It's where you want to be. The yields are high and the default rates are very low. So the best way there's a couple ways to play that. A, you can do the work, and it's a lot of work. Well, it's actually technically 3 ways. You can do all the work yourself, which is a lot of work, and you have to know credit pretty well. B, you can say, hey, you know what, Tim, I really like that idea, and we'll pay you pretty big money to start a new service doing that, in which case I'll do it because I am really good on credit. But there needs to be a bunch of you. Or you can buy the best ETF in the space is BNDS, and that's run by the infrastructure capital guys. Okay. And I am a big fan of Jay Hatfield because he is really good on credit. And as terrifying as it may be, he thinks a lot like I do. um, when it comes to the credit side of things. So, they're very good. And if you look in the portfolio of this thing, it's, there's companies that are going to be in business 10 years from now as the bonds mature. You can pretty much figure on a high level of reliable incomes with no default pressure, which you may not be able to say. If we're all wrong about this and we do slip into a deeper recession, then junk bonds go boom, and not in a good way. Okay, so your single B, your triple C credits, they start to really struggle and the returns go and the indexes plummet. That should not happen here with this. So the other thing that I think you want to look at is
Real quick question here, Chris. Real sharp stuff here today, Chris. Really appreciate this. Chris asking, Tim, would a rush in the junk bonds directly cause the TNX to go down, or is the correlation too indirect to forecast that move?
I think it's too indirect, and it's not something I've ever run the correlations or anything. So I would just, yeah. Now, do I think there's going to be a rush into junk bonds? I absolutely do not, because there is a lot of skepticism and a lot of people that are, a little bit worried about a recession. So we haven't seen any big selling in junk bonds, but I don't see capital rushing into the space anytime either.
Okay.
The other thing that, I think that you want to look at here is closed-end fund arbitrage. Where I'm buying heavily discounted closed-end funds that are tax-free. The tax-free ones are pretty good right now. DSM has a very nice tax-free yield, and it's trading at a big discount to the net asset value. We've kind of gone over that. Closed-end funds can trade at a discount or a premium to what value of the bonds. So we want the discounted ones. NFJ is sitting out there right now. And that's a dividend income fund, but that's an 11% discount with a 10.4% dividend yield. You've got one of my favorite funds, which is MEGI. This is the New York Life CBRE Infrastructure Fund.
MEGI?
MEGI.
MEGI, got it.
And they own a lot of the oil and gas infrastructure MLPs. They own a lot of renewable infrastructure and solar and wind assets. You're paying about a 10% discount for an 11% dividend yield. And there are activist shareholders in all of these that I'm mentioning to you. And then one that came up, and this one's not really an income play because it's only about a 3.5% dividend yield. But it's an area of the market that I'm super excited about, and that is Japan. The Japan Smaller Cap Fund, JOF, is trading at a 12.85% discount and a 3% dividend yield. And guys, Japan is probably the most attractive money market on the planet right now. And it's funny because over the weekend, I read the KKR call. I read all of the calls from the private equity guys because they see stuff nobody else sees, and they see it from a different angle. So Japan has gone from a market where it was impossible to do deals, right? All the companies had interlocking ownership. The government owns a lot of them, and they just did not tolerate foreigners. I can remember Marty Whitman trying to unlock value in some of the property and casualty insurance companies in Japan back in the 90s. I mean, they're trading at 25% a book. They were wildly profitable, paying dividends, but thanks to the cross ownership, he got nowhere. Now, they were so cheap, we eventually made some money, but we didn't make but a fraction of what we could have made had activism been allowed. Well, the current government in Japan looks at the market trading at bizarrely low valuations, and they've said, look, no more. The cross-holding has to stop. We're going to allow deal market making. So there's activism now in Japan. Private equity, KKR has just closed a couple of large deals. You've got a lot of funds that are looking at some of these very poor corporate governance situations in July in Japan, or assets that have just been sitting on the books for literally 100 years because, we've owned them forever, so we're going to keep them. So we've got inbound M&A activity in Japan of over $81 billion last year. That's up not 17%, 17 times the same period in 2023 before the government changed expectations and regulations there. So you've got private equity, you've got activists coming into Japan looking to unlock shareholder value. And in the small cap segment of the market, I'm just going to tell you, there's a ton of value. And, one of the reasons I read the calls from KKR, Apollo, Blackstone, Ares is because they tell you exactly how they do it, right? When you get to the size of these firms, you're earning really high returns for your clients, or you're not big. All right. Like KKR averages over 20% on private equity funds. Apollo's actually a little bit better than that. Ares is probably the best credit manager on the country. They not only tell you how they do it, they tell you where they're looking, where they're buying, what they like, what they don't like. I mean, it's an investor education to read the transcript of these calls every quarter. So KKR is real active in Japan. Blackstone's doing a bunch of stuff throughout Asia. So these are markets worth looking at. And by the way, again, Saturday, Warren talked about his Japan positions. And he said, look, I've talked to Greg, the guy that he's picked to succeed him, and he's like, I've made it clear, I don't expect these to ever be sold. When my grandkids ask you 50 years from now, they better still be there. So here's the 5 tickers of the Japanese trading companies that Buffett owns. I would buy them all. I would look to buy them on any further weakness. These would be an important long-term holding, and they are in my portfolio. Okay, ready? I'm only giving you the tickers here because I can't pronounce the names. ITOCY, MARUY,
Hold on. That is way too fast. ITOCYMAR what?
UY,
UY,
MSBHF,
MSBHF,
MTSFY,
MTSFY,
SSUMY.
SSUMY. All right. Thank you for doing all that. I'll post those here in the chat, folks. Now we can roll through those charts here if you'd like.
Yeah.
So Tim, these are definitely must own add-on weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you really want to be looking out long term. Now, there's a question if I'm bullish on the dollar. I don't care about the dollar. I'm looking out much longer, generally speaking, than short-term currency fluctuations are going to have on this. Does a weak dollar usually mean higher bond yields? Usually, but remember something, guys. All the rules are off the table right now in global currency markets and in global interest rate markets. So I think that if you really want to approach this market, you want to be doing it as a trend follower. But if you look at the best international investors out there, firms like Tweedy Brown, like Davis, like Brandis, the guys that just put up the numbers, they either hedge or just take their returns in local currency, and the best performing funds take the returns in local currency and let it play out. So okay. Just throwing that out there. And for the time frame I'm looking at in Japan, I absolutely would not be sweating the currency issues.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I got. We're coming into a period. I really do think the probability of a lost decade is quite high. A lost decade does not mean that we have to sit here and accept not making money, because there will be trading opportunities. The type of volatility we're seeing in global trade and relationships is going to create trending assets, whether it be shipping or certain commodities. And there's going to be uptrends and downtrends. And there's going to be some real opportunities to make money both on the trading side and on the investing side. It's going to not necessarily today, because remember, we're still at rather elevated levels and oil's still falling. So, but it's going to create some massive opportunities to get long a lot of stuff on very advantageous terms. What is long-term for you in the Japanese context? I'll say the same thing Warren said, till I die.
So 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years. I mean, it's a little shorter for Warren than for me. But look, if these things sit there and they continue to grow the way they've been growing, they continue to benefit from Japan's strong export economy. They continue to be involved in financing trade activities throughout Asia. They have favorable relationships with the United States. Although, key part, most of them don't need favorable relationships with the United States because they're doing most of their business domestically and in Asia. So, if they continue to do that and they grow the dividend and they grow their earnings, these things are just going to go up, for a very long period of time. Not in a straight line, obviously. That's why we want to take advantage of dips along the way.
Sure.
But these can be core long-term holdings.
Okay. Great stuff, Tim. I know we did. That was kind of a lot, but really, really good. Did you have anything else that you wanted to go over?
Oh man, I could do this for hours, but
I know you could.
I think that you guys need to get back and get your trading setups up, ready for the rest of the day. We've got a lot going on. The conclave started. Pakistan and India have decided to have a war, and your Yanks are still in first place.
I was hoping you were going to.
I'm not happy about this, Izzy. My team is playing terrible. We're very hopeful that if we can get the average age of our pitching staff back under 65, that we might have a shot in the division. But yeah, my guys are not playing well. Fortunately, moving here to Greensboro, the Braves are the local TV team, so the Braves actually know how to play baseball, and they have pitchers that are not collecting Social Security. So I might watch a little bit of them this summer while checking in and crying about my Orioles. And your Yankees look phenomenal, as do the Mets. Fair enough. No Sox. Wait a minute. No Sox. We do not do Sox on the show. No Red Sox. No White Sox. No Sox.
I can get used to that. Being a Cubs fan myself, if we put a moratorium on talking about the White Sox, I'm gonna be just fine with that. Comment here about the Dodgers still being the best team in baseball. How's the record against the Cubs this year? Just asking for a friend. Anyway, Tim,
that's really not a fair statement. I mean,
they are the best team.
We could bring in a team from planet Xenon, and the Dodgers are going to beat them 9-0. They're the best team in the universe right now.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's as I told you yesterday, it's a guilty pleasure, right? I feel guilty for watching the Dodgers and rooting against them because I should. They've spent all this money to build it, but God, they're fun to watch play baseball.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, it's very, very true. I've been someone that hasn't rooted for the Dodgers my entire life, being a Cubs fan, but credit where credit is due. Okay, real good stuff here, Tim. We really appreciate it. It looks like a lot of people here were taking notes on all of this. I do love getting diversified perspectives on the market and what we should hold long-term, short-term, medium-term, the whole 9 yards. One more thing that I really quickly wanted to mention, I wanted to give Tim a public thanks because some of the stuff that he's been working with us to enhance the value of the product is now been released. We talked a lot about the morning report, the rankings that Tim helped us build, as well as the trend indicators, which are displayed here in the details tool and searchable and scannable in the scanner. Tim, this makes it really, really easy to find quality stocks depending on which metric you're looking for, as well as the trends. Thanks for helping us with this. That's live and that's ready to go right now.
Oh, very good. Yeah, and you know what? There's still more to come, Ryan. As you know, we're going to keep adding some really exciting tools to Benzinga Pro to make it more useful for all of us to very profitably navigate what's probably going to be a very difficult period for stocks and financial assets over the next several years. We're going to put the tools in your hands to make it a lot less difficult and a lot more profitable.
That's right. All right. Good way to end it. Tim, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I'm glad you made it to North Carolina. We look forward to having you here every Wednesday. All right, my man?
Every Wednesday we are back. The nomad period of my life of 6 weeks is now gone. I tried to get my wife to buy an RV and just do this for a few years. And when she stopped laughing, she threatened to kill me. So I guess we're home in North Carolina. We're staying here. So.
We're glad you're still here, Tim. Enjoy your glass of wine for the Fed meeting here today. I know you're in the habit of having some wine and taking a nap right after that, isn't it?
Well, it's. I like to take a nap before. It's the best course of action. I'm less tempted to do anything in response. So we'll see what happens.
All right, we'll see. Tim, thanks again. We'll check in with you next.
All right. Bye, guys.
That is Tim Melvin. In addition to giving us some really unique perspectives, also a comedian. So we basically folded in a little bit of comedy or improv here into the show. So really good stuff. Special thanks to Tim. Thank you, folks, for all that. Like I was kind of saying here, I know a lot of the stuff that we do here very fast. We're looking for movers every single day. We're looking for those quick trades. It's really, really important to also have a long-term view, and Tim's one of the best in the business at that. We'll keep bringing him on Wednesday mornings for that. Don't forget, folks, we are at our 13 is going to be a little bit late here today. Have some family issues. Family always comes first. So he's going to be taking care of that. He will be joining us. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start with some of the movers. I can also, you know what? Maybe I should start with the stocks that you folks asked about, and then we'll see if 13's here by the time we get to the movers. I did really quickly want to cover a couple of these. I did see that several of you had been mentioning them in the chat. There are a couple here that are moving. ASST is moving here. We're going to come back and spend some more time on these, but you can see some of these that were busy this morning. I don't know. Not so much anymore. Megal's back. I know we talked about Meggy earlier. Megal's back. Oscar Health, they're trading higher after earnings. This was a Tim Melvin pick from several weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. Can't recall. And we have the return of MLGO and GPUS getting a little feisty here. So we do have plenty of movers to go over here. We'll dive into some of that when we get a chance. But really quickly, I want to cover some of these stocks. I actually want to start with Uber. Izzy's here, so we can start with Uber. And then also, they actually had some pretty wild pre-market here on that earnings print. We're going to start here with the daily chart because this is where we finished our day yesterday when we were talking about this. One of the things that we had outlined prior to this earnings report is the extremely clean double top that we have up here right around 86.5. So this now sure looks like this is in effect here. If we look inside, Uber down by 4.5%. It is up off of the lows, but it is weaker here in the pre-market. So the question really is going to be, does this continue to sell off? As far as the actual print itself, EPS beat the estimate, 83 cent beat the 50 cent estimate, but the sales missed slightly. 11.53 billion misses the estimate of 11.62 billion. We also had Uber rides lower Q1 revenue fall short of expectation. Lyft was also lower on that. Delivery revenue was up 17.5% year over year in Q1, and gross bookings were up 15%. This is important because tonight we actually get the DoorDash report, and I want to see what they say about delivery revenue up. I mean, if they're seeing anything like 15% higher, DoorDash is probably going to have a strong earnings print here tonight. So again, we'll see here. Also, they had Dari Khosrowshahi on CNBC this morning. I didn't catch all of it. I did catch some of it there. I guess one of the other things that's kind of going on there, unsure if it's really being reflected in the stock price, but apparently there are workers at Uber that are unhappy that the return to the office is being forced on them. Again, not sure what that's going to mean for the stock, but if we do see people being let go or some of that, just understand that there's something else going on there. Uber also says it's seeing very encouraging trends in Europe. That also came out of this report, so that's pretty good. Izzy, I guess one of the things that I'm asking you here, what's your plan on Uber since you trade this all the time? The reason I'm asking is because is this dip here that we're getting post-earnings buyable? Right? Do we have an opportunity to maybe kind of close the gap here, trade back up because the earnings report maybe wasn't that bad? Do we want to trade this against an $80 low? What kind of spots are we looking at here for Uber? The big thing that I'm thinking about here, I want to see how strong this double top actually is. If this double top does kind of send us down, I could honestly see this coming back into a 70 handle. We're not that far away, sitting here at 82.30. 50-day moving average down there at 74.71, 200 down there at just about 72. So could see this come back in. We'll see if we end up doing that. Izzy, I'd love to know how you're going to approach Uber here today. This might be one to watch for a potential pop out of the gate. You might be able to trade that with common as well as with options. Okay. And yes, I'm sorry about that. Anand, you're absolutely correct. Dash was yesterday. We can actually take a look at that. I'm mixed up here. When I don't have the graphic in front of me, I make mistakes like that. Sorry about that. Dash did trade down 7.5% here yesterday, and it actually did get a bunch of price target re-ratings here today. It's worth noting, though, no different initiations, right? So the price targets were adjusted a little bit. I mean, like, how bad is this, right? Bank of America went from 235 to 230. Okay. UBS went from 197 to 196. Okay. Benchmark actually raised the price target to 225 from 220. So I'm not really sure how many of these things are really going to be important or affect the stock price there. They did beat, and let's see what they said here by delivery. Orders jump 18%. This is what we were talking about. It does look like more people are actually using this. So there you go with DoorDash. Sorry about that, Anand. Good correction there. Ryan, you're totally forgiven. How could you do that to? Look, I try. I try to be as accurate as I can, but as I said, I make many mistakes. Okay, so let's take a look at the stocks you folks wanted to look at. Izzy, let's see, did you ask? Wait and reload. Okay, so I was asking you about Uber. What's the trade plan here today? Wait and reload, so you don't necessarily think this is necessarily going to pop right out of the open. Let's see if it finds the bottom first, and then we can trade that. Amanda says, it's me. I'm helping keeping DoorDash in business with 2 teenagers. I've heard that before. I've heard, actually, when I was in Branson, one of the people I was with had 2 teenagers that were staying at her house while we were out of town, and her Ring doorbell alerted her to DoorDash dropping off their food. So, Amanda, you are clearly not alone in that. Okay, that's Uber. Here's Palantir. Now, Palantir, of course, I feel like we look at this stock every single day at this point. What are we looking at here? So we fell yesterday after that earnings report. We are down another percent here in the pre-market. We're actually down 12.1%. The options predicted a move of 12.4%. So pretty much right in line, a little bit shorter than that. But what you'll notice here from the daily chart, yep, it looks like we might be back testing this trend line. We also have this kind of lining up with the 20-day moving average. So perhaps Palantir does end up finding some support today. One of the levels that we had kind of talked about with Red Dog yesterday was going to be maybe 110, 111. We actually ended up going through that here pretty much right in the morning. Right out of the open, we went through that. Then what was interesting, we actually tried to back test this level and couldn't get back over it. So I got to think that the trend here is still down. Crow, appreciate this. If you're looking for a long side trade, PLTD might be the ETF that you're looking for there in order to capture that. I kind of think that we have some more downside here. Now, what's going to happen if we test this trend line or if we test the 20-day moving average or a convergence of both of them? Well, we'll have to wait and see. This does seem like a bounce spot. Again, having a particular price that I want this to come into did not serve me very well the last time Palantir pulled back. So really, I want to see if I'm going to have to be more aggressive this time around. Okay. No, that's all right. All right. So let me know who else is trading Palantir here. It's great to see the RSI come in a little bit. Is anyone shorting this? Did anyone take any trade on this yesterday? We playing this to the downside here. I guess 92.71 is where you're going to have your 50-day moving average. That would actually be great if this really kind of came in. I feel like it would do that fast. I feel like it might even try to go back down to this 85 level, but we'll see. All right. The pre-market was ripping yesterday and now it ain't, says Joseph. So the interesting thing here, let's actually take a look at that pre-market. We'll go to Carvana here in a sec, Yassine. Don't worry, we got plenty of time. Here's your SPY. All right, we were higher here in the pre-market. We are starting to leak a little bit. So a couple of the SPY levels here we might want to take a look at. Maybe 557. This is going to be our intraday low from yesterday as well as the low from the after hours. Probably buoyed by some of those earnings reports. We'll see if we give that back here today. SPY definitely weak. S&P futures now only up 0.16%. They were up more when we first signed on here. A couple of the earnings that were affecting this. Here's AMD. AMD initially popped and looked like it was pretty good, ended up going green to red, and is basically about flat now. So the option seller is clearly winning this. Lisa Su is going to be on CNBC here shortly, so we'll see if she says anything that causes the stock to move. If you're going to trade AMD today, be ready for that, because that's happening here pretty soon. If you want those numbers here real quick, we had EPS 96 beat the 94-cent estimate, 7.44 billion in sales beat 7.13 billion in sales, and then they see Q2 sales. This was the good thing. They saw Q2 sales 7.1 to 7.7. The estimate was for 7.24, so they actually guided above the high end of the range there. That, I think, initially is what popped it here before coming back in, which is another reason why I think whatever Lisa has to say today might be pretty important. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Amanda, I have the 85-115 strangle on AMD. There we go. Did anyone take any of Anne-Marie's trades from yesterday? Let me know. Okay, here, let's do the movers here real quick, because I'm unsure how much time it's actually going to take me to do it solo, and I do want you to be prepared for some of these littler guys that we do trade here pretty regularly. First one's going to be ASST. This is Asset Entities. Asset Entity shares are trading higher after the company announced that it entered into a merger agreement with Strive Asset Management to be the first publicly traded asset management Bitcoin treasury company. Okay, so now we're getting another Bitcoin treasury PR here. This one being a asset management company. This stock absolutely ripping here in the pre-market, plus 190%. Guess it just backed off that high a little bit, but huge move here. I know Tuna's been looking for 100+% runners to really kind of determine how much bullishness there is going to be in a day. It's great that we already have one here. Let's do a quick look around the horn. 3.61% of the float shorted with 1 day to cover. And float here, 12.34 million. We're way over the average volume. And I would guess I would want to know what else. Let's see if there's anything else in the PR. Obviously, being live here wasn't able to go through this for you, but we'll have to actually look through this PR and see if there's anything else interesting in here. And then this was so it looks like today they are going to have, the CEO is going to present on a live stream. The link for that live stream right here in the press release might be a future catalyst here at 2:15 Eastern. 2:15 Eastern. Okay, so anyway, ASST, this is moving on a Bitcoin treasury asset management PR here. Stock's up 200%. And doesn't really have a whole lot of short interest. If we take a look at the chart, look where we popped above. Here was the recent high that we did. We're pretty much right into an area that was former support and then maybe some resistance. So this 180 to 2 is likely going to be an important area today. We'll see if we can come up with any more areas for that here today. One of the things that's kind of jumping off the page for me right now is going to be this trend line. Let's see if we can get that in here. That would give us a target of about 282, about another $1 from where we're at right now. Could see that happening here. That's going to be ASST, Asset Entities. Been really strong here in the pre-market. Would really need to see this volume continue to expand in the regular session. We'll see if it's got enough to do that. Okay, next here. Tovex, this is Theriva Biologics. Theriva Biologics shares are trading higher after the company announced VCN-01 was well tolerated with transient and reversible adverse events, meeting the primary endpoint. So great news there on the surface. Looks like it did meet its primary endpoint. The trading action here absolutely has me worried. This thing did pop above what looks like 280, stopped just shy of 3 here. We've bled back some of the gains, but now we're getting a pretty big pull, pretty much right back down to balance. And look at that. Look at what happened. So they announced this interim data here, phase 2B clinical trial with good data at 7 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours and 17 minutes later. 2 hours and 17 minutes later, they release a PR here offering 7.5 million shares. This has now gone green-red, TOVX. So we've actually seen some of these that actually have good data and then do an offering right on top of it. We have seen some of these end up resolving higher or trade higher. So maybe keep it on the back burner here. But again, just know what you're trading here, right? You get a PR for good data, pops the stock maybe 100%, and then they just offer into that here. That's coming back in. Quick look around the horn just to make sure we cover all that. 3.49% of the float shorted with 3.41 days to cover. That 3 days to cover comes on a paltry 33,000 shares of average volume. We're way above 30 million with a PR and an offering here today. That's not even a problem. So that short interest there, that days to cover, not really a whole lot of squeezy effect here. Float 2.77 million, so it might be pretty good to trade if it can find some footing. At this point, I would just watch the volume and the technicals. You got an offering out here. The morning move has been completely round tripped. Maybe it does bounce here. Looks like it's trying to do that right now. So I would just use really sound risk management on this one. If this is one that you want to trade it against the day low here, or really the breakout spot. It does have a nice range. So if this thing can get rolling again, maybe it can provide some pretty decent trades, but just be careful on it. The positive catalyst has already been kind of negated by a somewhat negative catalyst. So there you go. Next on the list here is going to be a former runner that we've played off of the scanner. This is Megl, ticker MEGL. This is Magic Empire Global Limited. Which one was this again? Service provider in Hong Kong. So this is going to be one of our China names here. This stock is up 43%. Looks like we have a corporate statement here in the form of a Form 6. I didn't actually go through the statement. This looks like a board of director received the resignation of Mr. Yu Sing Chan. All right, so it looks like we're having a board shakeup here. That's the catalyst here for MEGL. Apparently, the market loves this as it's up 43, almost 46% here. It's actually off some of the highs. Be careful with this one because we know what this thing can do. We've seen this one move before. It's crazy. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And of course, when it pops, you guessed it, it likes to drop in short order. So don't stick around here. All of these are short-term trades. But especially on some of these junkier ones, if you get profit, don't be afraid to take it. But that's what's going on here with MEGL. Quick reminder of the short interest, 1.33% of the float shorted with 1 day to cover. Float's 2.4 million, way over the average volume, so you should be good here, MEGL. Okay, another one that had a catalyst here today that had some pretty wild movement. We'll see if this one's any good. This is not one that I'm familiar with. I can't even recall if I've ever pulled this up in my broker before. New Century Logistics. Ticker NCEW. Okay, NCEW. New Century Logistics shares are trading higher after signing a memorandum of understanding with Sora Dynamics to develop and deploy an in-vehicle drone logistics system. Okay, now I'm basically just speculating off the headline there, but we're going to have a drone system in vehicle. That actually sounds pretty sweet. I do want to look into some more details of this one. See if the news desk gives us any. The United States accounts for nearly 30% of total logistics costs, and the truck driver shortage continues to grow, exceeding 80,000 in 2023. So this is basically, the system is designed with a modular approach, allowing for rapid development without major modifications to vehicle structures, significantly reducing the initial investment threshold for small and medium-sized logistic companies. Okay, so it sounds like this is supposed to help logistic companies get started. I'm not sure how that's going to actually pan out here, but we'll give it some time to see. We did pop above 7 earlier. Wow, we went as high as 730. This was a huge move higher on this name. Looks like we moved higher by about 250%. Now we've retraced 90% of this move, so be careful. Maybe it does find some support down here, 263. Maybe it retraces the entire move. Let's take a look here. Short interest, 0.74% of the float shorted with 1 day to cover. That is basically nothing. Float here of 6.35 million, so it's absolutely a low float. We should be able to push it around pretty well here today. Not we, the market should be able to push it around here today. But really, the big thing here, this has got to show that it's put in some footing, right? It came basically the first time it came all the way back down here. It did give you a little bit of a bounce, but even that bounce didn't hold. So again, be very careful with this. Make sure if you're trading this one, you have a pretty good idea of where it can go and where it might find some support. Never like to see a piece of news get completely sold into like that before the market even opens. All right, next one here is Oscar. We talked a little bit about this. This reported earnings here. And actually, how was that number? And we'll see if anything came out of the conference call. 92 cent beat the 83 cent estimate, $3.5 billion in sales. Estimate was 286, so nice beat there. Let's see, full year 2025 sales guidance 11.2 to 11.3. The estimate was 11.18, so this was a raise here on the guide. That's really been one of the catalysts that have carried some of these stocks forward. It's great to see that happen here. Plus 21%. Wow, huge move here on that. And so Oscar, okay, good earnings. That's what's driving it higher here. Let's take a quick look around the horn. This is a little bit thicker than we're used to. 200 million shares just about there in the float. We should easily have no trouble getting over the average volume. 8.36% of this stock or the float here is shorted with 3.6 days to cover. And that 3.6 days to cover does come on nearly 5 million shares of average volume. So maybe one of the reasons we're seeing this up 21.5% is because some shorts are off sides on this. We'll see if that carries through the course of the day. I don't have a position on this, but definitely put it on your radar for a potential squeeze play here today. All right. AVDX, this was a takeover, wasn't it? No, beg your pardon. This looks like this was just earnings. Avid Exchange Holdings shares are trading higher after they reported Q1 financial results. It was also had its price target lowered to 10 from 12 at Baird. This is interesting. They missed. This is a top and a bottom line miss. EPS of 5 cents missed the 6 cent estimate. That's really close there. Sales 107.94 billion missed the 109.5 million estimate. I might have said billion there. I meant million. Saying it's suspending its previously issued financial outlook in light of its pending acquisition. I thought that this was a buyout here. So pending acquisition on this. I'm not sure there's really going to be a trade here. That's why this one is moving. Don't want to spend too much time on this. Really hasn't done much of anything. GPUS, this is one from earlier this week. Looks like this is getting a little frisky here in the pre-market and doing so on no news. So this looks like just kind of trading action here. As a really quick reminder, 15.96% of the float shorted with 2.87 days to cover. And that comes on 5 million shares of average volume, which we've almost reached here today. This one also might be in play here today. And then another one that I wanted to mention here is going to be NBIS. It actually looks like we're getting a PR here. NBIS plus 11.8%. I know the story trading guys traded this one. We've traded this one. I've still wanted to get back into this, although I really haven't yet. Nebius welcomes Bezos Expeditions as a lead investor in AI data business Toloka. So here we go. Looks like some type of collaboration with Bezos. Gives Toloka greater flexibility and independence in governments, enables significant and rapid scaling of its business to capitalize on substantial market opportunities in AI data. Got all this reads pretty well here. NBIS, nice reading PR, this plus 11.5%. NBIS here, 200 million shares in the float. On average, trades about 12 million shares. This got 7.36% of that float shorted with 1.3 days to cover. Not sure there's really going to be any squeeze here, but nice PR, nice move. Got a pretty decent level here. This 28.34 is pre-market high. I think if we snap that, we probably take another impulse move to the high. If we lose the VWAP, maybe we come back in a little bit. Okay, let me catch up here real quick. ASST, we looked at that. GPUS, Crow, we did take a look at that. Let's see. Wisdom, good morning. It's great to see you. How many blunts are you deep already is my question. NBIS building volume. GPUS looking squeezish. Disney's actually on the list here. Disney reported earnings here this morning. I'll get you that number here real quick. Conference call is ongoing. Walt Disney EPS of 145 beat the 120 estimate. Nice beat there on the EPS. Sales 23.62 billion beat the 23.14 billion. Okay, He's here. Do not despair. I told you he was coming. 13, welcome. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing just fine. Don't worry, folks. This is just going to be this week where I'm showing up late.
Nope. They were worried. And I had to calm everyone down. So you can say what you want. They were absolutely worried. Look, man, we got 30 seconds till we open here. Is there anything that you want to do before we open?
You guys took a look at ASST, right?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, that merger was reading into the PR they had this morning. This apparently is going to, they already are planning on making offerings. So I wouldn't be holding on to this stock. Just a day trade only.
Okay. See, Market Sniper was extremely worried. He's very happy now. Zane Anderson absolutely missed you. Dr. Manred missed you. We got this, though.
Yep.
All right. Also, Izzy here. We kind of joked about this a few times. Weight Watchers here. This is getting pummeled on news of it filing bankruptcy. So maybe we can expect a bounce here today. We are open. We're going to flip over to the main workspace. 13, we can take a look at anything that you want here today. Just let me know.
So I don't know exactly what movers you looked at, but ASST, that's what I'm watching. We got MEGL.
Oh, you said movers.
NCEW. I noticed some interesting names like Curiosity Stream. I'm very familiar with that company, not as a stock, but as a
which ticker? Oh, Curie, CURI.
Yeah.
So I didn't cover this one. So what's going on here?
I don't know.
Okay. Sorry.
I just know about that one. I just know what they do, but I haven't looked at their news this morning, so I couldn't tell you. But all right, so let's see what we got here. ASST, that's trying to. That's probably it's the 100% runner. That's the only one we have this morning. So I'm sure all eyes are on that one right now.
And that NCEW, that was 100% runner, but it retraced all of that. So that was multiple 100%, but it retraced all of that. So.
And looks like $4 is giving it a tough time. Looks like we popped up to there, and the pre-market got rejected. Coming back up to it now. We'll see what we end up getting.
Amanda says, I loved Curry when I was teaching. So what is that? What does that company do?
It's Curiosity Stream. Here we go with NCEW. It looks like just keep an eye out about what happens with it at 4. But Curiosity Stream is a platform where you can go and look up documentaries and different videos that teach you how to do things, or if you're interested in learning about something, it shows you all that. So
that sounds awesome. That's what I use YouTube for.
Yeah, think of it like Discovery Channel, kind of, but on a website. I guess that's my understanding of what it is.
Well, that makes sense why Amanda used that a lot. That'd be great educational content for kids. Sure.
Yeah. Look, here we go with NCEW. It's trying to push through 4.
And I've got 420 as the VWAP there. 13, I'm going to leave this on the screen and step away real quick. I'm really glad to see it. BRB.
Oh, all right. Thanks, Caddyshack. Curie reported earnings last night. Okay, so that's why it's up. Let me just take a look real quick and see what their earnings looked like. We're up almost 50%, over 50% now, because it just broke out, didn't it? How do I have a different print than what I'm seeing? Oh, no, never mind. Wrong ticker. Okay, so their earnings, they had a beat, actually a profitable EPS beat. Sales look good, and they guided higher than the estimate. So, way higher than the estimate. That's going to do it every time, almost every time, unless there's some other news. Okay, so what else do we have here? All right, now we're getting a poll in NCE. Curiosity Stream, by the way, over $5. That's moving up nicely. MEGL, that opened and went lower, trying to turn around, but I think this one's still having some trouble trying to get its footing. ASST pushing up here. We're right at the pre-market high, and we're going into a halt.
Which stock?
ASST.
All right, this is going to be our halt fest here.
Look at the price ladder on that one. There was a huge concentration of orders flowing in at 189.
Yep. Okay. So, halted right at that pre-market high. Let's see if we bust above on that.
Yeah, and this company's trying to do. I think it's doing some similar stuff to what Strategy is doing. Raising capital to buy Bitcoin. It's in the PR. And it's not a very long one. If you just read through it, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I did. We actually took a look at that one.
Mm-hmm.
That was here.
And that's like the only one I had time to really look at. All right, let me actually take a look at the broader market, see what that's doing. So apparently we had a big old move at 6 p.m. yesterday on news of Besant and let's see, who was that? Besant and USTR Greer to meet with China on trade talks.
Yep.
As soon as that news hit, SPY went flying, and now we're giving it all back.
Here's a look at that intraday chart. We actually took off from 557. We're currently right here at 560.
Now, got to make sure that, I know we talk about these offerings a lot, and, sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. One that happened yesterday, and I pointed it out, was with KTTA. I hope nobody was in that when that happened, because we are back right back to where we started the whole move.
Look at this.
The after hours. Yep. Right back to where we started.
Yeah, really, really good heads up discussing that yesterday. No question.
And you'll see, a lot of times I'll say these, they could do this, they could do an offering, this and that. I would say maybe like, out of the 20 or 30 stocks I mentioned where they could do that, one does it. So it happens more frequently than we may realize. MAGL really starting to get going here. Just recaptured the 65 EMA, trying to get up to what I think it's going to run up to about $2 before it runs into resistance. We almost just ticked that right there, didn't we? 192 it just popped up to. I think $2 or maybe a little bit underneath that, like 197, something like that. But $2 is where I would be placing my target for MAGL. I don't know if it's going to break out of that or not, but it might.
I've got your VWAP there at 202. So that 2 target is likely to find some resistance there at 2.
Yes. Thank you, Crow. GPUS. GPUS. That's going. Now, I think I'd be careful with this one. I don't like the price action in the morning. Maybe we do get some buyers to really come in and help lift this higher. 620 is the high in the pre-market, but kind of looks like it was trying to top out. Now, the MACD is telling us that it's trying to curl up and go higher. So we'll see if we get some follow through with that. If it does happen to break 620, we do have a significant amount of consolidation. Actually, 620, when we ran up there in the pre-market, it ran into some of the lows from yesterday's pre-market. And that's about where it was before we fell out at the open. And that was resistance ever since. So $6 and 620 are really interesting levels for GPS.
App, ticker APP, App Lovin'. Remember, they report earnings after hours here today. This was actually up in the pre-market, but has since sold off down to yesterday's intraday lows. I am also seeing some put sweeps come across the wire here. These expire tomorrow, on Friday. So these are clearly to capture the earnings print here. Put sweeps on App for earnings tonight. Curry continues to move higher here. Curiosity Stream 5. What do we have? There's the high print. 521 as the high print. The stock is up 55% on the back of that news. Unreal. CEP, this is one that we were holding short here today. Unfortunately, having a bounce back day. This is exactly why we're looking to always sell partial and scale. That's really kind of helped us here on CEP. These puts are pretty much cut in half from our first sales spot. We'll see here if CEP can end up rolling here. Hopefully you guys booked some gains on that short as that has worked.
36 even for CEP. That wouldn't surprise me if we ran up to there. That's been a resistance area for the past couple of visits. It was up there in the pre-market earlier this morning and in the pre-market yesterday as well. $36 even.
Okay, we'll see if CEP can do that. GPUS, this actually looking like this might try and break the top here. MEGL still going or still trying to go for that $2 spot. We're only 10 cents away from that.
Here we go with GPUS through 6, coming up to 620. See if that resistance kicks in.
ASST is open now, by the way. ASST coming back. This is actually going to halt to the downside here if it holds 170. That's a nasty move right there.
MACD kind of showing you that this thing is starting to curl and get tired. So we may lose VWAP here after this halt. See what happens, but no position in that. Looks like Curiosity Stream starting to put in some upper shadows here. Be careful with that one.
TripAdvisor, this is moving. This had earnings here this morning. This ripping to the upside here, plus 9.5% on the back of that.
Solar Edge with a nice move out of the gate here.
Saw that
after
earlier.
5
Let me
minutes.
bring Solar Edge up here. It's ticker SEDG, by the way.
Yep. Seems to be up at about a spot where there has been some resistance. Like $15 looks to be the spot for resistance right now. Kind of got that on yesterday in the after hours, and after we lost that level, I don't know what the sell-off was at about 150 yesterday, 150, 145, but there was a big drop in Solar Edge that took us beneath 15, and since then we have not been able to get back up there. So $15 looks like a pretty important level here. Crow mentioning RHC. I don't think we've discussed that one this morning, or at least I haven't since I've been on here. I don't see it.
I think it's RGC is what he meant. I think that was a typo, and it's actually.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see. Okay, now this one's moving.
There was the sneeze that I was waiting for.
Okay, so what kind of volume are we looking at here? Wait a minute. That's not a lot at all.
Not at all. 50,000 shares here on RGC.
It's just really spready. Is what the situation is. Okay. All right.
Lion here thinking CEP is going to resume to the downside here soon. We'll see if we do get that on CEP.
Maybe after it hits 36. Maybe.
Not yet, anyway. NBIS, I don't know if you saw this here this morning, 13. This actually had news here. Nebius welcomes Bezos Expeditions as lead investor in its AI data business. So I guess the Bezos name helping NBIS here. That's still holding higher by 7.5%.
I hate that name. Bezos? Expeditions. Bezos Expeditions. No, that's not for me.
Okay.
I just don't like the way it sounds. It's not nothing against Bezos himself, but Bezos Expeditions just sounds like a terrible name.
Okay. No, that's totally fair. Palantir here back above that 110, 111 level that we thought the pullback might kind of stop at. So Palantir here, I know we've got this kind of nasty double top up here. Palantir trying to bounce today, plus 2.2% here. So far, this is straight up out of the open.
Maybe with a bit of a break in a trend line here. You are ready to draw?
I will go ahead and draw it. I will say I'm looking for the VWAP a little bit more than the trend line, but nonetheless, here is your trend line. We broke that going right to the VWAP.
Yep. Juicy.
CEP stopping here at 34. We'll see if that pulls a little bit.
If it holds above VWAP and 33.50, it should just kind of try to consolidate for the move up to 36. But if it doesn't, that's fine too, because I'm kind of with line on this. I think this goes lower. Up first and then lower.
Sideshow here. I love this. Love when you share strategy here. Right or wrong, I always have a stop loss into a halt. Instead of being down in ASST, I cashed out a little profit and now can possibly buy back at a lower price. Sideshow, this is exactly the type of stuff that we talk about here. Red Dog was on a couple of weeks ago saying, we're traders. We have to pay ourselves. That's what our job is to do. Never a bad idea. When something moves in your way, never a bad idea to take some of the risk off the table. I think scaling is always the smart move for the most part.
So with Curiosity Stream, I'm looking to the left here, and we haven't been at these prices since 2022, almost 2021. But this area that we're at right now, there's a lot of resistance that starts to kick in at about 520. And that lasts from until about $6. And you can see from like the end of 2021 to the beginning of 22, that's where that concentration is. So you might see a lot of sellers emptying their bags up here. And then once that's done, we could see better trading through that area.
Yeah, remember that's the exact thing that Mark shows us when we talk about that with Mark on Fridays. We'll see what we get here on Curiosity Stream. A couple of things. Lion Atlas saying Marvell. Here, let me actually go to a bigger chart there so we can take a look at some of those moving averages that accompany that. Marvell coming into Marvell coming to a great price for a long. Do you think Marvell here a potential long if it can hold this? The way I would look at this, Lion, this is actually a pretty simple trade, right? Looking at it right here, about $54. I would just trade this against the recent low here down at 47.5. Realistically, as far as the trigger, just to kind of use more of Mark's parlance here, would love to see this get above that 20 and close. Maybe we can actually have a fill the gap that we just created back up to 60.
Well, MEGL gave us two. Look, it gave us exactly what we were looking for. It broke out of that trend line. The next candle took it up to 201, and now it pulled. Still above the trend line, though, and above VWAP. It's trying to hold above it. So let's see if this can continue. But that whole trade there from going to 2 from where we were at, that nice 30-cent move, that happened. So congratulations if you took that. That was good.
Okay, that went right to VWAP and stopped there. ASST, this is open here. It looks like it's trying to bounce here off the VWAP. Remember, this came back into a downside halt there, opened lower, but reclaimed the VWAP here. So far, so good. I've got that at 159 in TradingView, 160 here in my broker. That, to me, the level to hold right now, 160.
Just don't like the way the MACD is looking on the 5-minute.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Probably ends up going lower. And if it does, I think you're going to see, probably going to see support down around 105. Hopefully I'm wrong and, it goes higher, but I don't know. Ryan, one of the things that I did this morning, I put a limit order out for BTMD, the one we were talking about yesterday. So I have a small position in this now because I really liked the discussion on it. I liked the insider buying. They have earnings today. So I'm going to try, and I have to, I just can't shake this thought that they're going to announce something in earnings, especially with all that insider buying leading up into the print here.
Okay. So let me ask you, do you want to talk to the group about this? Do you want to kind of go over the thesis here? Do you want to maybe, whatever, I'd be happy to.
You probably pulled more out of what Andy was saying yesterday regarding this, but I'm in it for the reasons I was just mentioning. The insider buying, I think, down to a base area, like it was bottoming, and they have earnings today. And I think there's going to be, I don't know for a fact, but I just have this thought that with all the insider buying that was happening this month and last month, going up into this earnings print, I have to think that these folks that are buying these shares are anticipating a big move in this stock soon.
And here you go. So the insiders tab here in Pro showing you all of this. They basically spent all of April buying the stock up here. Mm-hmm. And it actually, to your point, there was some other insider buys there in March as well. So maybe we will get something substantial here out of this earnings report. Ticker is BTMD, stock's up 3.8% here. Just do a quick look here around the horn like we do on some of these other smaller ones. 3.43% of the float charted with 4.22 days to cover. Stock has a float of 21 million. So pretty much right in our butter zone. The one thing to keep in mind on this, be careful. Be careful. I actually see it moving around right now. I wonder if some of you are buying it. Be careful because the stock has only traded 9,000 shares here today. And on average, it only trades 200,000 shares.
This is not a mover by any stretch of the imagination.
Exactly.
This is just a trade that I'm trying to play. And I may even hold it longer if it goes on a run. But I thought it was a good idea. It's not a very large position. It'll be a nice steak dinner if I'm right. If I'm wrong, guess what? No steak dinner for me. Not a big problem.
You'll find a way. You'll smoke something else. You'll do something.
I'll smoke something else. Yeah, there you go.
All right, GPUS looks like that is ripping here. Grats to anyone that played this here today. GPUS popped above that $6 level that we had outlined earlier. Looks like it printed 7 here. GPUS.
Fantastic move. Yeah, just took out that 620. I'd have to have seen what that price action was looking like because I'm sure there was a concentration of sellers that just got instantly deleted, but didn't have it on my screen. Oh well. CEP looks like it's setting up to go push up to 36. I don't know if it's going to go beyond how high beyond 36 it'll go if that happens, but 36 is where I'd be looking at here for a play. But I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to wait for it to hit that and turn around.
33.63 is going to be your VWAP. I think if you crack that, we might return to 32 here. MEGL, this did find resistance above that, or excuse me, did find resistance at that VWAP. But look, it's really so far holding above the trend line. that you had me draw. That's wonderful.
And it's looking like it's setting up to go higher. Pony, that's a nice move.
Pony
Also,
AI, this is a good mention here by Will. Pony actually taking out yesterday's intraday high right now on some pretty good buying volume. And this buying volume different than what we saw yesterday around the open. This stock does report earnings here in 2 weeks. Be curious to see what they say here. 1.46% of the float shorted here today. No fresh news as of today. Is still running on the strategic partnership to advance autonomous mobility. We got that PR yesterday. And that deal with Uber. Smoked tuna all over it. There you go. Here it is. This is all from yesterday. Looks like we're getting some continuation here today.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you had Uber that reported they had good earnings. What were their earnings like, right? I mean, I didn't check it, but are they up or down? They're down.
They're down here. They reported worse than expected results, and they did kind of make that double top. That's one of the things that I'm looking at here. It was a mixed report, though. They beat a little there. They beat handily on the EPS, and they missed a little bit there on the sales.
And they also have a deal with Tencent. So if that's having a good day, maybe that's why we're seeing some better movement than Uber.
Okay. Needham reiterated a buy here this morning and maintained their $90 price target.
It looks
so
like.
What do you think about the chart 13? I know I'm just kind of going off. What do you think about this double top up here around 86 and change?
Give me one.
Yeah, take your time. I kind of put you on the spot there. Oh, also, one more thing here. I know we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. Thanks to the morning update. IPOD, your IPO today. IPOD.
It IPO'd?
It's going to. I don't believe it's out. IPOD.
Now, is that a?
Yeah, it's not open yet.
Does that have anything to do with Apple products?
It's literally iPod. Let's see. Dune Acquisition Corporation. No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't have a company. I don't have a company description on this. Founded by Chief Executive Officer Carter Glatt, the company was a SPAC whose business purpose is to effect merger, amalgamation, share capital exchange, asset acquisition, share repurchase, reorganization, or similar business combinations with one or more businesses. The company. Clear Street is your sole book runner. 1.875 million shares.
Curiosity Stream is getting.
Yeah, sorry, that's all I got for you on this.
Curiosity Stream is a big move all the way up to 525. There's a seller right there. Waiting to see if he gets taken out or not. If not, that's where we're going to see the resistance. We'll have two prints up at that area on the regular session today. Regarding Uber, those highs from February, that's probably we're gonna see some of that as support, I think. So depending on what happens with that, will let us know if this is going to be a double top that sends us lower, or if it's kind of like a W shape. I only want to say a W-shaped recovery because it's not recovering anything. It's just, kind of trying to get out of this sideways price action it's been in since last year. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is just we're waiting to see what Uber does with support. The earliest one, of course, I just mentioned in mid-February, and then after that you have a good concentration of support down around 78.
Okay.
So
that makes sense to me for a pullback level there, 13.
Yeah. So those two areas I watch for, yeah.
Real quick here, ASST, this has, reversed and gone higher. We took out that $2. We took out the intraday high that we had just set here. This halted here at 207 ASST.
All right.
Day trader here saying IPOD could be a short-term ticket before the SPAC merger. So looking like that would be a short-term trade. I would agree with that. Roberto, sorry, 13. Roberto here. Good morning. Any thoughts on the SPY? SPY was pretty easy today. We're pretty much in a holding pattern, my man, until we actually get the FOMC conference here today. 13, you're welcome to chime in here if you have any levels here on the SPY. But really, the big thing that I was watching here today, downside level is going to be that 50-day moving average at 554.5. That's slightly above the 552 10% pullback level that we have identified. This thing, I still think this is going to test its 200-day moving average. That is an upside level of 573.13. I don't know that there's anything that we can infer prior to the FOMC here today that's going to have the biggest impact on the SPY price.
Yeah, I'll get to the SPY in just a second. I just wanted to point out with ASST that
Sure.
Out of this halt, we could, if we are going to get some more upside, the 500-day SMA is at 239. So we could just like kind of round that up and say 240 might be the next spot we want to keep an eye on.
Okay.
So we'll see what we get out of that halt, but also keep in mind that on the daily, this thing is very extended. It has a 93 RSI right now. Just be careful with ASST.
Yeah, and also we had talked about this a little bit in the pre-market before you signed on. It was a little bit lower, but it had popped into this area where it had consolidated for a while. It was previous support, likely to be more resistance here. So ASST, good stuff there, 13. You're welcome, Roberto. Did you have any thoughts on SPY for Roberto here?
I'm looking at a 5-minute chart. I'm looking at all the highs from the since Friday. And you could draw a trend line through those.
Believe that I did.
And then you can see that we got this pop up from that news at 6 p.m. yesterday that took it right up to there. Couldn't break that trend line. Now we're trading back down. This area between 559 and 561 is a previous consolidation area from when we were rising. So now that we're on a decline here, I think this is also going to be an area where we could see consolidation. But this is kind of setting up to break out with that trend line. So I think we'll want to keep an eye on that. 555 is the support area that I would be also keeping an eye on.
Awesome.
If we lose that level, then we're probably going to come back down to the 10% correction level, which that value is at 551.91.
There you go. Perfect. Well done, 13. Roberto, there you go. A good question there. All right. Let me flip back over to my main workspace. We still have ASST being halted here. It looks like GPUS is ripping, still printing more highs. Look at this. 750 looks to be the next spot. And look at this. Lion. Look at Lion. He said this will resume its downtrend soon.
There it is.
CEP has pulled several dollars from that recent high already. Lion, you might be right, buddy. EOSE, sorry, this is another one that we've talked a lot about off of the relative volume scanner stock. We've traded a lot from the $1 to $2 range. It's up here at 630, this moving on volume. They had earnings, it looks like. Yep, top and bottom line beat here, lost 17 cents versus the 21-cent loss estimate. And it's the guide that really did it here.
Yeah, the fiscal year revenue. That's what it did.
Yep. 150 to 190. The estimate there was 170. So they basically, that's right in the middle there. And they basically went higher above the high end of the range there.
So I think it was Crows, correct me if I'm wrong, that mentioned RGC earlier, and it was moving on very little volume. I don't know what this is. I didn't look at it yet. It looks like it's a biotech of some kind, but it just had a $50 move since the open. And now it's halted the downside, giving it back. This thing moved on literally no volume. Well, it's some volume, but not nearly the amount that we're looking at with some of these other movers. All the way up to $200.76. Now it's back down to 61.30 or 161.30.
Michael DeSoto asking the question that every single one of us has asked probably recently and probably more than once. Why can't my stock make these types of moves? Michael, stick with it, brother, because there have been there are a lot of kind of junky small cap stocks that I've held being like, hey man, if this one stock can move, so too can this. And sometimes it's just a waiting game on this. Stick with it. We all ask ourselves this. It's just not our day yet. ASST is open and halted again.
It's going to go into another halt here in just a second. There it is.
225, that other halt, boy, that was open.
That was 3 halts now, I think.
20 seconds. That stock was open for a total of 20 seconds. Daniel, well, ASST is all halts from here. This is our Halt Fest stock of the day.
Yeah, after these 3 halts, we may see a pull in the next one, but it could resume higher later on. Typically, you kind of see that with these Halt Fests. They'll do like a series of 3 run-ups. When this one opens, it might pop higher and then drop, so be careful. But still looks like it could go higher.
Okay, so ASST halted. Looks like GPUS, this is still moving. Now, it doesn't look like it's at any risk of being halted here, but this is pounding the highs. Oscar also pounding the highs post earnings. That actually took another leg up. EOSE pounding the highs. We got plenty of strength here today in certain names. Who asked about Clove the other day? Someone on here, maybe it was Happy Hour and I'm mixing it up. Someone asked about Clove. Clove higher by almost 10% here today. Solar Edge flashing a possible breakout here from 1550, which is another one that we've been looking at. Interesting. Palantir calls getting bought here. These are some of the short-term this week 111, 112 calls. Ticker PLTR.
Looks like GPUS is still going, trying to get to the $9 level that it went up to on Monday.
Open Door Technologies, now a penny stock. So this might be one of your penny runners here for the day. This thing traded above 90. N is asking, when is Happy Hour? Happy Hour is a Zoom-based call that runs from 4 to 5 p.m. right after the market closes, Monday through Thursday. But the caveat is that you have to be a Benzinga Pro subscriber in order to get in.
And you already get a whole bunch of great tools and features with Benzinga Pro, but as soon as you join, you'll be opened up to a whole bunch of other programs that help you with trading and ideas generation.
Yeah, and the way to think about 13 is exactly right. And the way to think about that here is that this tool is basically designed to be a newswire and informational research tool for you. But in addition to giving you those abilities, we do kind of bring the whole community aspect to it so you can bounce ideas off of other people. You know, I don't think I've shown this enough here on the channel. We bring Anne Marie on every Tuesday and Friday. They literally give you structured options trades directly from a pro. Anne Marie has her own chat room and ecosystem built into the platform. She will often reference her midday Moneyball or some of her videos. Those are posted in here for you to join and watch when all of that is happening. So be sure to check all that stuff out. The Happy Hour was basically created during COVID to get people together to talk about what they were seeing, and it morphed into one of the best informational get-togethers I've ever been a part of. So real good stuff there. N is saying, I am a pro member. Awesome job. I shouldn't be surprised. What page is the link on? So it's not actually on a page. You'll actually see a banner here. Let me see if I can duplicate. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, it's a little teal banner that appears at the bottom.
We're going to have some fun, 13. We're going to have some fun here. I'm not supposed to do this. We're not going to tell anybody, and we're going to do it fast, but we're going to have some fun here.
It's only on YouTube. Don't tell anybody, though.
Real quick. Well, you'll see here in a sec. First of all, you want to go to the settings and you want to make sure that your info bar is turned on. I turn it off just because it's screen real estate. I don't really use the information on there. But for the sake of at least signing up for the Happy Hour, you want to turn this on. What's up?
Webble, it's rocketing right now.
Okay, let me finish this first. Sure. Then we'll get to the stocks that are rocketing here. I know you said you found it, but I want to cover this anyway. The other thing here, what we'll do here, what it looks like, let me go ahead. Oh, I can't type fast enough for there not to be dead air. That sucks. All right, 10:02, and we're going to go to 10:04 in terms of the time. Here we go. There it is. There's the teal banner. So this is what you should be looking for every day. And if you click on it, there will be a link to sign up. But obviously this is just a test.
Of the Ryan Broadcasting System.
That's right. Now, let me see if I can get rid of that. Can I delete it?
Open Door looks like it's trying to go to $1.
Hopefully that didn't screw anyone up that's actually using Pro. Okay, let me go back to Webull. Let's check out what's going on here. ASST looks like it's open and moving lower. Is that
it did
correct?
Exactly what I said it was going to do. It opened
and it
halted. A little higher, and it went down and halted. Yeah, so that's
and it was open for a whopping 15 seconds, folks. 15 seconds.
So there's that. Probably we'll get a little bit more of that, but I'm not going to discount this and say it's done. It could still continue to be a halt fest, but this is, I think we just need to wait for the next setup. We could see another down move here out of this halt.
Weeble here, no news on this. It is up 7.83% though. Recaptured 16 right there. Ticker BULL.
I thought I had it on my screen. Let me pull that back up. Yeah, so that was crazy to see that start to take off, go to 1643. That's now higher than yesterday's high. It didn't quite get higher than Monday's, but Monday's high was 1670, not too far away. The high of that day's pre-market was 1734. So there's a couple of levels there to watch for if this continues to go up.
You could put us on hold, Ryan. Would wait for you. It didn't sound right, but gives us a good hold. I don't have any idea what you're saying.
He's saying he'll wait for you. Sanctuary
City Slicker. Interesting name, but I have no effing idea what you're saying, my man.
He's saying he'd wait for you, man.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
He's saying you're worth the wait.
I don't think that's what he's saying, but maybe. Palantir here still continuing its run higher here. We'll see if that can actually yesterday's consolidation in the pre-market here, 112 to 115. That would be my next spot here on Palantir. Richard saying Palantir's forward PE coming in to 195. It's like 196 is your forward PE here. It did dip a little bit, but it is pretty laughable how little it dipped. I am seeing EOSE calls getting bought here. That probably plays into what we're seeing here on the move. Lion, you had talked about Adobe earlier. That's not really doing much anything here today, up 0.4. And someone took a position on Boeing. Boeing so far looks like it's done an excellent job holding 184. The last 3 days we've really been in this 184 to 187. I want to see us get out of that channel.
Yeah, that's we've been down here for quite a while, since it's been almost a year. Actually over a year now. We came down into this 187 area early in last year, and that has been the big area. You could kind of print it a little bit higher, maybe in the 190s, the low 190s, but this area has been the big resistance for Boeing for over a year now.
Yeah,
to break out of that and get over the 500-day SMA would be a very bullish move. I think that we could see that go up to 200 again for the first time in over a year.
And I think you're spot on with that. And I also think that 200 pop, if we're able to break that, here's a visualization of that. We're pretty much right at that 500. 13, we also did back to, I don't know if you caught this. We had talked about this recently, this recent upper trend line. We actually did back test this trend line. I think we drew this when it was first moving. Now we've actually back tested it. Looks like we tested that 500 too. I'm with you. I think 188.50, a snap of this, we probably go to too fast.
Yeah, if we back test that'd be a nice W-shaped recovery.
Who was it that bought this? I saw someone do it, but I can't place it. Out BA, it was Chris. You're already out of it. Okay. Well, at least you made money here.
Nickel is pushing back up again. It just went through the trend line that we drew after getting some support from the 200 EMA on the 5-minute. Looking to go back to $2. Maybe this time it'll start printing above 2. Maybe. Don't know how much time is left in the ASST halt, but that should be coming up at some point, maybe in the next 5 minutes or so.
Jaboni says, haven't spoke about EA in a while, ? Tell me that you joined late without saying, Ryan, I joined late here today. We did.
Bull, here we go, hitting the highs from Monday.
We did talk about EA here. This has actually been one of the best winners of 2025. Remember, we started buying that in the 118 handle, 155 here. Here's your bull chart.
Dude, look at these folks in here scalping bull. Take it out, guys. You're awesome.
If you need to put us on hold, we'll wait for 30 seconds before getting antsy. Sanctuary City, that makes a lot more sense. That basically comes by. I know, 13, you're pissed. He'd wait for you. This is what I said before.
He'd wait for
you. Okay.
I read it loud and clear.
ASST pulling back to 2 here. We'll see if it can hold 2. So far, it has.
Ooh, I see something I like with NBIS. Want to draw a trend line?
Hood going higher here. Yes, I do. But really quick, I'm going to spill a secret here.
Okay.
You ready for this? We had Tim Melvin on this morning, gave a list of really great kind of long-term stocks. We actually did a webinar with Tim Melvin yesterday. He said he liked Hood for a potential growth possibility. And there were several people that were shocked that Melvin likes Hood. But nonetheless, he did say that yesterday. We talked about Hood maybe breaking above 50. Okay, we'll see if we get that. MBIS, we're going to do a trend line here, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't think I need to explain where.
You don't.
Go.
That is as clear as day.
So if we can get back above, what is this, 2740? We can get back above there. We may end up breaking this trend line here. Large concentration of sellers just above, or just right at about 2740. So those will have to get taken out as well. But this is looking like it's trying to set up. MACD is starting to curl. Just kind of waiting to see if we end up getting this. But it looks interesting for sure.
EU, this is news that I'm seeing across the wire here. EU seen targeting U.S.-made cars with tariffs if the trade talks fail. So if we do have any type of rocky road there on trade talks with Europe, looks like we're going to have more tariff headlines on American cars. You can factor that into your trade plan.
Well, let's hope that works out then. Okay, so
breaking. This is what I've been waiting for. Breaking news. The Utah Hockey Club has decided that they are going to change their name to the Utah Mammoths, which I like. I think that's going to be sweet. If you bought Utah Hockey Club gear, make sure that stuff is clean and put away. It is likely going to be worth money in the future, much like the Washington football team gear. Jay Harris, Ryan, when you get a chance, can you give some quick Disney levels? Yeah, I'm actually going to bring 13 in for that because 13 has been watching and trading Disney as well. Do you have anything that you want to get out before I start this?
Yeah, ASST did the next thing where it went down out of that halt, found support, and then it ripped back up. So this looks like it's trying to push higher. It's halted right now. So out of this halt, we might see a break over 230.
That halt 222, and that is a slightly lower low from the 229 halt that it had previously.
All right. So
okay. As far as Disney, what?
Let's go Diz, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, as far as Disney goes here, I'm just basically going to start with the daily chart here because this is one of the things that we watch quite a bit. We recently, on this move here, on this gap here, we have popped above the 200-day. We found resistance right at the 100-day. So right away, my first key level here is going to be $100. The actual level itself is 100.03. I would really want Disney to hold this. I think if this cracks, you can probably fill this entire gap back down. First target there, 95.5. That's going to be your 50-day moving average. So right away here, 103.30 clearly represented resistance on this move. It really does need to hold 100. That's the 200-day moving average. Furthermore, I'd like to see 3 consecutive closes above 100, but we'll just start with where we're at here today. And then if that comes back in, 97.5, 95.5, both levels with moving averages there. 13, what do you got for Disney?
Well, to the downside, I have levels of 95 and 97.50.
Okay.
We've seen like sideways consolidation in that. As a matter of fact, last year in October, that was where we were consolidating, and I had already had those levels drawn because we had consolidated in July that last year as well. Once we broke out of that, then we really started moving, and we went as high as 118. But we really got slapped back down. So I think that 200-day SMA that you mentioned, that's going to be really big level to hold. But if we lose at those levels that I mentioned a moment ago, those would be the downside levels to be watching for. Now to the upside, 106 seems to be the next resistance area that we could run into with, if the 200-day SMA holds. So I'd be,
and that was a former resistance level, yeah, or former support level, excuse me.
Right. So that's what I'd be watching with those. And I don't really have much beyond that for the time being. I need to see some other things happen, but there's other trend lines that I can speak on later once we get an idea of where this is headed. But for now,
Yeah.
but I think they're in play.
Also, 111.5, that's clearly going to be a level. What's interesting here, if I kind of cut this off, I'm actually going to throw a trend line on here just to see. Trend line has up at about 106. So we'll see. Here are some levels here with Disney. We can keep checking in on Disney. I know that this is a popular one amongst our group. Okay. GPUS, this is kind of bull flagging up here, still holding pretty well around 750. ZVSA, this is one of the penny stocks that we've taken off of the relative volume scanner before. This was actually a nice move back to VWAP. We'll see if it has the strength to get above that, although I'll pass on that penny stock. Curry, reclaiming its VWAP. Izzy was scalping Uber. Color me shocked. So Uber, okay, so interesting. So so I had asked earlier, what do we think? I had asked Izzy specifically, and you had said wait. So that was actually a pretty good call. Uber here retraced some of its move off of that earnings print. Shame on me for not keeping this on here, Izzy. This was an easy one. Damn. We basically traded back down to the pre-market low and bounced clean off of that. We're actually above the VWAP now. We're pretty much right back to where we were trying to break out in the pre-market, maybe a little bit higher here, 84.50 on Uber. That was a nice scalp, Izzy. We even talked about that this morning. That was a good scalp.
I think when it comes to GPUS, if this can take out 770, we'll probably end up seeing 8, maybe even 9.
Okay.
Look,
wow.
Draw a line at 770. Where the highs where we were just hitting, and look at the price action from Monday. That's like right in the middle of that concentration we were topping out at. And then in the after hours, when we after we fell, the price dropped. When it came back up and tried to recapture those levels, 770 was where it was rejected. That's more like 775, but same general area. And then it just went lower all through yesterday until this morning.
ASST is open and higher now out of that halt. Boy, is this one difficult to trade. We're going to pop again here, it looks like.
275 ASST. That's what we're looking for here. I got 275 and then 292, 293 is the next one after that.
Smoke Tuna here saying, I don't like what it's doing at the top.
No.
Hey, Smoke Tuna, remember that one time where I tried to highlight one of your comments and then I actually banned you? That sucked. I hope I don't ever do that again.
Just keep in mind that the RSI for ASST is super extended right now. So, scalping it might be a little difficult, but I don't think you want to jump in and hold this thing because it feels like this could just come right in at any moment. Just have those stops, folks. Don't lose everything.
No, I'll be honest with you real quick. This is the Utah Mammoths new jersey. This looks sick. That is a sick logo. I love this. I know this is not trading really. I love this. Love it. All right, I can be happy. We got some sports news today. I can be happy. Tuna. Crow. Listen to this. Crow's out here trolling people. Blocked by Gordon Johnson on X. That's the Tesla Perma Bear. Looks like Crow, you were doing some extracurricular activity yesterday.
GPUs trying to push higher, looking for that 770 break. There we go.
770, and then what? 9? What was the high that?
8. It's a little bit above 9, but I want to see it get to 8 first, and then
908. Yep.
No. $8, and then
no, I know. I'm sorry. We're talking two different things there. I know you had said 8. I agreed with you. I said, what is the high there? The high is 908.
Okay, that's where I misunderstood.
Yep.
The 908. So just got to see what we get here with GPUs. It's trying to push into that over that 770 area.
Bitcoin here, make it another move higher here, 97.7. Bitcoin might be trying to take out 100K. MicroStrategy here, 393. This is actually looking pretty good at back above that 383.40 level that we had talked about. I tell you what, MicroStrategy looks like this might try and set some new highs.
You had Bitcoin run up to 97,750 last night, and then it came right back in. So I'd be kind of targeting that area. That's only $500 away from where we're at. Don't know if we'll get a breakout or a double top, but I think we could trade up into that area again, at the very least 97,500.
Walt Disney here, 101, up about 10% here. Jay Rice saying, Crow, I was blocked 4 years ago by Gordon Johnson. I consider it a privilege. You guys out here just trolling people. That's funny. Netflix with a nice little rip there. You know, I've been watching some of this option action. Haven't really seen any here. Netflix, nice little move higher. I would still watch that 1160 area on Netflix. I do think that this is still good. Still going to go higher here. I don't know when the chill on Netflix is, but 1160 looks to be the next spot here.
Crocodile done me. Cooler's got such a large share structure that it's going to be hard to move that up, even with Bitcoin rising. That's just the unfortunate thing about Cooler. And Michael Moe said he doesn't want a reverse split, so it is what it is.
GPUS might be cracking that 770 level here. We were just above it temporarily. See if that can get above it, hold, and maybe build. MEGL still flirting with that trend line. Has not been able to get above the VWAP despite moving through that trend line. EVGO, this was a good mover yesterday, and some more continuation here today on EVGO. I actually think you might get some resistance up here about 4.5, 460-ish on EVGO.
I think Webull might try to push higher. It certainly looks like it's trying to get going here again.
Yeah, that pullback stopped back here at the VWAP. So a pretty good move off that impulse move. We didn't give everything back here. We didn't even really retest this trend line. To your point there, 13, I think you might be right on this one. I think it might be going higher. Mike, good morning. It's great to see you.
The volume is a little low right now. So if we see this expand, that might take us higher here. So that's what I'd be watching for, is that volume expansion. Let's see here.
Halozyme up 15% after earnings yesterday in the afternoon. More continuation here. Ticker HALO. Oscar still holding its highs. Look like that thing printed above 17. Well, where is this at on the daily chart? Okay, this is pretty good. Tim, I think, talked about this in a 13 or 15 area. So we might have some, we might be green on that one too.
Just taking a quick look at the SPY, seeing if it's getting close to the trend line that we drew on the smaller time frame. Not quite there. Volume a little low. See if that changes. Newsmax starting to get a rise here. Trying to take out that high it just made of 26.35. Looks like Webull is starting to move a little bit as well. Still need better volume, though.
Carvana. You guys are mentioning Carvana here. Yassine had asked nice and politely earlier if we could take a look at Carvana. I haven't really gone there. Let me throw this on a bigger chart here for Carvana. We do have earnings today after hours, so keep that in mind. Let me know if any of you are playing that for earnings. I'm certainly not going to. Here's a look, though, at Carvana, where we're at. This thing has been on a humongous run. My God, April 7th, this thing printed a low of 155. We are 110 points higher than where we were from the beginning of April. 1 month, 110 points.
Amazon has just taken off. As he was mentioning that just now. He said, wow, so I had to look at it.
Real quickly here, Carvana, I think if you beat, you honestly could test this 293 area. Let me see what the market makers are predicting for this implied move.
Amazon finding resistance up at the after hours consolidation from Friday. If you look at a shorter time frame chart, probably like the 5 minute or around there, you could see that on Friday after the market closed, it just kind of went sideways into the after hours, and that's the resistance where the price is currently trying to deal with right now.
Carvana here, real quick, folks. Market makers predicting a $31 move. So we've got this all-time high right up here, 293. Guess what? We're at 262, a $31 move on top of 262. is 293. That makes complete sense. This is almost like the stocks are looking at what Anne Marie does.
Open
And
door. That's trying to move into $1. Sorry, go ahead.
now I was going to say, Yassine, he won't let me finish. He won't let me finish. There's your upside level there for Carvana. Downside level going to be at that 50-day moving average. I was just kidding. 13. Which stock were you looking at here? Open Door, OPEN?
Yeah, that was trying to push up into the dollar area. Well, it's not near there yet. We only have a high of about 92 cents, but this is a setup that could take us beyond 92 cents, but just need to see better volume.
ASST, this is now open, trying to go higher here. The high print there, 245 on ASST.
Amazon broke through that consolidation from Friday. Now we're above 190. And ASST still has some problem with 240. It's chewing through it. It just took out that seller, it looks like. Still thinking 275 is going to be one of the areas we're going to want to watch for to be out if it gets up there. Otherwise, just trade it how you're going to trade it. But 275 might be a big area to watch for.
Real quick here, I'm going to ask for likes, but I'm going to change it for you a little bit. Please give some likes to the producer who found a setting to make the delay less here in Restream. So I know we had to switch to StreamYard yesterday. We're back in Restream here today. Let me know what the delay feels like, folks, because we think that it is under 10 seconds now. Shout out to you, producer. Smash up that like for Mr. Michael.
Seeing anything that's moving or setting up? Because it seems like it's a little bit quiet at the moment.
No, it looks like the setups have gone, right? I see the chat talking about NMAX here. I don't really see a setup on this one. I feel like this one's already moved. Here's nice W. We did not get our move back to the VWAP on that one. We kind of talked about that. I don't see any, 13, to answer your question outright, I don't see anything set up for a new move. Maybe Megal, if it can get above its trend line here and then VWAP, maybe, but I don't see a lot of setup trades. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys got anything, let me know. Palantir, nice little bull flag, Alston.
It is almost 10:30, so I guess that does kind of make sense. Palantir, if this continues its move up, I think you're going to see the big resistance come in at about 112, right about there, maybe about 112, 112.30, 112.40. That's where the support was kicking in on Monday when we had the after hours drop. And even into the pre-market the following day, there was support there. And then when we opened, we lost that level. Have not been back there since. So if we hit that today, I think that's going to be resistance to watch for.
Hood here, seeing some option flow on Hood. I did see some calls there. Seeing some puts on this. Seeing some app flow in here. This is what I was waiting for. Remember, AppLovin reports earnings here. They're down 1.72%. ahead of the earnings print tonight, but I am seeing some call flow in there. This is, let me actually filter this a little bit. Do this greater than 100. Is he yelling? Ryan, ONDS looks dead. Yeah, it does. We're going to wait that one out, though. That's why you haven't heard me talking about it. Whole lot recently, still waiting that out. Next earnings, 2025, we'll reassess at the end of it. Remember, the most recent communication with the CEO, he said, wait till next earnings, should be pretty good. Had to be very careful about what he talked about, though. So he play that with a grain of salt. Like I said, that is more of a long-term thing than any of this short-term stuff. I know you've been trading it short-term, good stuff, but I'm in there for a long-term. Muddy Waters is short AppLovin. App CEO and CTO responded to our initial report with demonstrably false statements. AppLovin. We got a war. Where's Lion at? Here you go. Here's the actual report itself. I can throw it on the screen here.
Oh, there's 8 in GPUs.
Let me give you guys okay. Here, I'll do this on my own. Let me get GPUs back here. Sorry about that. 13.
Oh, good.
We had this move telegraphed too, didn't we?
Went up to 814, getting a little pull now. It's trading beneath 8. If there's still any gas left in the tank, I think it goes to 9. I don't think I'd be wanting to do much with it after that. Not that it couldn't continue to go higher, maybe even hit 10, but for everything that it's given today, I don't think it's in anybody's interest to stay greedy.
Wow. Wild stuff here. So I'm just going to read you really quick. I'm going to read you the first two paragraphs here real quick. Well, we already talked about this first one. Second one here. CEO Faloona denied app creates or uses persistent identifiers in its March 31st, 2025 blog post. One, we will show that this denial is a lie. Throughout his blog post, he references CTO Shekin's analysis. Will show that Shekin's explanation of how to identify data are used and how app creates and uses personal identifiers is misleading. A lie of omission. Boy, they are going for the jugular here on this short report. They basically filed the short report. The management team responded. Now they're responding saying, we got your response and you lied. Oh man, this might be a real good. Don't forget, they reported. I wonder if they're going to comment on this on tonight's earnings report. App, by the way, that short report dropped it from 307 to 300.
Maybe I will get a gap fill.
Dustin's asking, how do you read yesterday's earnings report for TEM? Well, if you're using Benzinga Pro, your task is extremely easy because all you have to do is type in TEM, go to the news feed itself, and you can actually click on the press release itself. So a couple of things here. Press releases or the source of your news is going to be denoted by the far right-hand margin of the news post. I actually have my press releases highlighted brown. Brown reminds me of trees, which reminds me of paper, which is what press releases were initially printed on. If you click on that, this is where you can actually go through. So as a pro member, you actually have access to the press releases themselves, not just the headlines. Let me know if this answers your question.
Wis mentioning Emrin, that got a little pop.
That was from yesterday, wasn't it?
That was from yesterday. Remember, this company is basically winding down operations. They are not going to be a company anymore. So, don't hold it. Trade it, but don't hold it. Getting asked by Scott Rathbone, is NBIS move coming? It did just have a little bit of an up move, and then it just came back down here to VWAP. So if the move is coming, it hasn't started yet. Need to see this thing continue to hold its 65 EMA. It got a bounce earlier in the morning off of that level. Just haven't really broken that trend that line that we drew yet.
I was going to say, here's my answer for you, Scott. When this thing busts above it, if this thing busts above the trend line here, that might be the trigger for the move. And depending on how long it takes, you might have that first resistance area be that 28.33 pre-market highs. This is a good question here from Jay Rice. What do you guys make of Crowd? The industry is hot, perhaps got doged. A lot has government business. So I would turn this over to Amanda because she's very familiar with Crowd, knows more about the actual software in the company than I do. So I'd want her opinion on that. I am still very bullish on the cybersecurity as a theme, Jay, for 2025. I think so far we've kind of seen that that's going to be the case here. The industry is indeed hot. As far as the Doge, I'm not really sure how that's. I don't think cybersecurity stuff is going to be viewed as waste and fraud. Maybe certain angles of it, maybe it gets reduced a little bit, but I have a very tough time seeing that, even with all of the hysterics that are going on right now around Doge and all of that. I like this. Really need to see it get above this double top.
Seems like 390 might be a good area if you were going to try to go for a long on this. We kind of double topped here, but if this is if this is going to go higher, I'd want to see this hold around 385, 390, and turn back up and take out these the 450 high. So that's ideally what I'd like to see out of CrowdStrike. I don't know about upcoming catalysts. It's trading lower because they announced a workforce reduction. I don't know if that's because AI is taking over jobs or what, but I don't know that that's necessarily good. if given all these cybersecurity concerns we have in this nation.
Yep.
But go ahead.
Amanda just dropping straight heat here. I feel like Crowd is safe. I would agree with this. It's a tariff-proof stock, and we won't be able to we won't be able to cut cybersecurity. Amanda, completely agree with that, 100%. It does hate 450, though. The chart is showing you that it really dislikes that 450. Amanda's been selling the 390, 500 strangle for a good premium play. Okay. I think the layoffs are good. Jay, there you go. Jay countering with nothing is tariff proof. Okay, Jay, but I think she made a pretty good case here. Let me know what you think about what she's saying. I'm with you here on Crowd. I think cybersecurity just in general is probably a pretty good play for 2025. ASST, by the way, halted at new highs here, 260. That is your day high and a new halt. So Sideshow here asking another question. We can address this one real quick. Reiner13, is it possible for your stop loss to get hit during the halt, or did that price quickly drop down right at the very open and then shoot straight up? Okay, so first of all, this depends on your stop, right? So if you have a stop, let's just say at 260, and you have a limit order of 260, and the stock gets halted at 260, that stop's going to get triggered. I don't know what the specifics are of what you have here. If you have a limit order, if the stock's halted at 260 and you have a sell limit order at 240 under where the price is, and the stock opens and gaps down to 220, and you have a stop limit, yeah, it's possible that doesn't even get filled. It's possible that order doesn't even get filled and could still be hanging out there. Don't necessarily have enough details to answer you otherwise.
Yeah, if the stock's halted, it's not going to trigger the stop. It's only when it's open. Because that's how I'm reading your question. It's during the halt. So no, it's not going to do anything during the halt.
Lion here missed my call out for him. ASST is open 261 and 262, your high print there. Lion, you were asking what happened with App. App had Muddy Waters responded to the response from App. And Lion is spamming.
Oh, geez. Yeah, so this could be one of those ones that we want to keep an eye on. If this drops significantly, it might be a good play. That's how we've been playing these short report names previously. You know, they get hammered on the short report, they recover later on. We trade that recovery. Yeah, that's possible.
Oscar back to VWAP. GPUS here. This did a good job getting above that 770 level that you outlined. Hasn't made a move since then. Looks like the volume's kind of slowed down here a little bit. By the way, advanced to decliners is something Anne-Marie has talked with us a lot about recently. Advanced to decliners here, plus 890. This is actually off the highs from earlier. This was at, this advanced decliners were positive by about 1230 earlier. It's backed off a little bit since then.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at GPUS, and MACD is starting to curl. It hasn't crossed yet, but it's starting to get a little weak here. So I don't know if we'll see 9. Maybe we do later on. It's entirely possible, but hey, we got 8 at least. So maybe it just needs to pull back, cool off before it goes to 9. No guarantee that it does, but I'd still keep an eye on it. Webble pushing up. It actually it's pulling at the moment, but it just pushed up a second ago.
Also, Netflix, new all-time highs as we did take out that 1160. We talked about this a little bit earlier here. Netflix straight up out of the open here did set some new all-time highs, although on the daily chart, unless this continues to push a little bit more, it looks double toppy. But boy, oh boy, Netflix, you want to talk about stock that's recession proof, or excuse me, stock that's tariff proof. I know it went down on the tariff news. It immediately went green after it.
And
Disney CFO on CNBC. Okay.
Don't look now, Ryan. But remember the other recession-proof play we talked about?
CrowdStrike just a second ago.
Nope. The other one, like Netflix. Spotify. Look at that one. New highs.
Hey, that chart looks exactly the same. 13.
Yeah. Oh, and thank you, Joshua. CEP also passing 35. So
Yep, that's kind of a bummer, actually.
Looking for that 36. I think 36 is probably going to be the big resistance level. I'm not making any predictions, but I think that 36 could be the spot where the sellers start to kick in. Just my own thought. Nothing anybody should be trading on, but I think 36 might be the top. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. And what else is doing stuff? Actually, let's take a look at SPY.
SPY here bounced back, but the bounce is kind of slowed.
Yeah, a little bit of sideways. It's showing that it's getting some good support at the 561 level. But after that, after it gets above like 561.50, it just kind of goes sideways. Volume kind of declining. We'll see.
Wow, TEM, nice little rip out of the gate there.
And Will mentioning Soundhound. That up to the pre-market highs, 928. There's a large concentration of sellers at 929. What is that?
This is Jay's Lantheus. That has been a huge moneymaker for him early in 2025. This thing getting absolutely destroyed today. Lantheus Holdings shares are trading lower after the company reported worse than expected Q1 financial results and cut its full year 25 guidance below estimates, down 20% here. Lantheus. This actually, so Jay, you know what I'm going to ask you. Where's the buy level here on Lantheus? Is it this high 70 handle? 77 to 80? Where's the buy spot on this? This was a great winner that first time around, but man, oh man.
Turn on your 500.
Yeah, I have to go to it. I don't have it on this chart here. Let me go to a bigger chart. Every time I try to get lazy and use the smaller chart, I end up getting punished. And you wasted no time. You're like, oh, he's on the smaller chart. I'm gonna punish him right now. Turn on the 500. Oh, you don't have it? Oh, too bad. Here you go. We went right to the 500. This is exactly why 13 was saying it. So is this a buy zone? The last two times we were down here, this was a screaming buy. Jay, what do you think?
RSI is also under 30 at this point. Seems like it could be good down here.
We got RSI saying this is buyable. We got a support level on the chart saying it's buyable. Instead of buying the stock up 7%, like when we're talking about it, we're talking about it down 20%. You're our expert here. What do we think on Lantheus?
Lion is saying for some reason he keeps losing the stream.
I think that's because he's locked out of his car and he's trying to do this all from his phone and he's trying to deal with a locksmith and a stream at the same time. I'm not sure we can help you, Lion. Get your ass inside. Okay, Jay saying Lantheus. I saw it, Ryan. I had a small piece. I saw some puts come in last few days. I'd wait for 70s. Okay, so that high, Jay, that makes a ton of sense from looking at the chart here. 75, 78, the last two times this thing bottomed out. Here we are sitting at 84. Actually, it looked like, did we print? What did we get here? Let me turn that volume off. Let me be very, okay, we did not. We got 81.32, so maybe we do have another day or two of shakeout here. Ticker LNTH. Put this on your watch list, though. This is a good one.
Yeah, if it loses 75, then we face a gap fill down to 70. That gap being from May, early May last year. Looks like some things are pulling a little bit. What's up? What's so funny?
Amanda and Lion. Lion is having a day. I actually feel bad for him. I was doing a little gentle ribbing earlier, but now I actually feel bad, and I don't mean to pile on here. Lion, we are not losing the stream. It is all you. All of your problems here this morning have to do with you, not others here. And Amanda said, I'm sorry, Lion, but if the locksmith needs your help, you called the wrong one. Oh, facts, Amanda. Facts.
Looking around for something.
I am going to set a price alert in Pro for when Lantheus goes below $80 exactly. Not $8,000, $80. Okay. Price alert added for Lantheus, ticker LNTH.
Yeah, Crimp Biscuit, I saw that RGC bounced. I don't think it was a really high volume bounce, but I noticed that it did. Yeah, this thing, you be careful with this. I mean, it goes from 200 to 172 in seconds. Be careful.
Which one?
RGC.
Oh, RGC. Yeah, that's that super thin Regency BioCell, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I can't even trade stuff like this. Do I even want to see what the level 2 looks like?
Maybe.
Oh my God, dude. This is spread $1.50.
There you go.
I don't even see the price ladder moving and I see prints. Yeah, guys, be careful with that one. I'm not even sure what to say on that. I would for sure lose money if I traded that, for sure. You all can be very funny at times. Thank you. Look, one of the things that we're going to try to do is, this is a serious thing, and we're going to try and introduce levity to it so we're not all sitting here freaking out. You guys hear me joke about people running around with their hair on fire because of what they see in the news. We're going to try and dial that back here. And humor might be a big part of that. That new IPO, by the way, not open yet. APPS Digital Turbine, not app, but APPS right back to a resistance level, 350, that resistance level. This had a huge run here today.
Ray Riorian asking if we think Mego can get back above $2. Not with this volume. There's a large concentration of sellers right at 2. It's the largest concentration I see up until 216. But this volume is not going to be enough to get it up there and through it. We need to see this expand some more. So once you see that volume begin to expand, I think that's going to be your indication that this is trying to go higher. Currently is also beneath my VWAP as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got VWAP here at 195. That's literally acted like kryptonite to this stock. It has just not been able to get above that. Maybe we'll get a magic carpet ride above the VWAP. That might take us to those pre-market highs. We started drawing our trend line there, 250. Yes, Lion, we know, man. You're locked out of your truck. You don't have your key fob. We all feel bad for you this morning. That's for sure. We're hoping you get that resolved soon.
What kind of car? A truck? I mean,
it's a truck. Yeah. What kind of truck? I'd be curious to know too. Does the coat hanger down the window work?
Depending on the year.
I lost my Costco credit card and really need it. Maybe you can help. You mean by giving you mine? Can't do that, Richard.
All right. So
Chris did take Hood long here on a 50 break.
All right.
I'll tell you what, this chart, I do think you snap this. I think Hood probably does try that higher here.
CEP hit a high of 35.40.
Did it hit? Okay.
So it was just 51 cents short of 30 cents.
Okay. It didn't go right to your number and then immediately turn around. That's wild.
Well, I mean, there's still time.
Amanda here. Oh man, if Ryan lost his Costco card, he'd be lost. Ryan would be having heart palpitations. I'd probably have a bit of a cold sweat going on. You'd know. You'd know for sure. You'd know for sure. Bull. So that's actually trying to resolve higher here on Bull. I watched that 17 pop.
Yeah,
TEM, same deal. That's trying to get above 56. Sorry for cutting you off twice there.
GPUS bouncing off of 725, says Scott. Where is this one on my list?
I want a $1.50 hot dog now. I can't do it at 9:45, but I'm with you there. Richard, take care of yourself. We'll be back, or we'll see you later.
Yeah, I not sure about GPUS right now. It's in question mark mode for me. It's looking like it's about to roll over. I need to see like maybe another 5-10 minutes of data before I decide on it, but not sure right now.
Hims, nice continuation after yesterday's move here. So, that was the other thing. We ought to mention that. I did this on Happy Hour yesterday, but I've talked about it here on this show a number of times. Here is your big hymns daily chart. What do you notice is gone? That's right. We completely invalidated that head and shoulders with this move from yesterday and today. There is no head and shoulders on this chart. We thought there might be. Invalidated, though. I will say these two trend lines, 13, I think that you assisted on both of these. They're almost forming like a broadening area. This has been really good so far. We'll see if this continues to hold up here too. Hims having a nice plus 4.75% continuation day after yesterday's move. Joe's asking, oh, what happened to my scanner here? Let me try refresh. I've never seen that before. Let me try refreshing here. Joe's asking about EAF. That was Jay's little guy, EAF. That was that Graph Tech or whatever. I actually saw that on the scanner here earlier.
Oh,
I'm not in EAF, but
this having a nice 16-cent run. That's pretty good looking.
Yeah, it sure is.
Let's see if it can hold 70 cents.
Yeah, I think 75 cents is going to be some resistance here. Looking at the chart here. Sure, look where we're at here. That absolutely looks like some resistance here. But you know what? We get out of this box, maybe we can make a move back towards $1 here, ticker EAF.
All right, so Curiosity Stream, when we were trading earlier, that had a big drop down to the highs of the pre-market, trying to get some support, but still looks like it's going to trend down a little bit more. Maybe the 65 EMA on the 5-minute will give it some support. That's at about 445. But if not there, then we'll probably end up getting support a lot lower, around 412.
Producer said, if we talk about food, you're banned. Amanda immediately responded with takeout from A&W, literally a double bird right to the producer's face. That's pretty awesome.
It has been a long time since I had A&W.
I don't think I've ever had A&W, like from the restaurant. Like I've had the root beer, but I don't think I've ever had A&W, like gone to an A&W store.
There was one that we had near my first house in California, and they ended up shutting down because wasn't very popular. But man, those burgers and that fresh ice cold root beer, hard to top it.
Yeah, I'm going to stop thinking about cheeseburgers right now because I, too, am hungry here. Real quick, Pete, I love this. Look for a drawdown leading into the Fed announcement if you're long. So you're looking for the SPY here maybe to pull into that Fed announcement, staying out today until that's over. This was, Pete, I don't think you're alone here. We saw really kind of, especially comparing it to last week, we saw really depressed volumes here on Monday and Tuesday. And it sure felt like more folks are waiting here for the Fed. So I think that you're probably in the majority here on that.
I was getting asked a question about GPUS. Let me pull that up. I think it was Master asking about where I was getting the 8 level.
Sure. Let's do that here. GPUS.
So when I'm looking at some of these stocks that are moving up, I'm looking for potential areas of resistance, and I start by looking to the left of previous day's price action. Big concentration of price action was on Monday, and that concentration of price action really started to take shape after the morning when we kind of went sideways. And in that sideways price action, you have multiple levels you could draw on for resistance. But one of the things that stood out to me was the $8 level, because let me just mark it over here. Okay, because one of the things that it was doing in the regular session yesterday was having a hard time breaking over $8. If you look at like a 5-minute chart and look at Monday's price action, you can even draw a line at $8, and you can see just how much of a hard time the price was having trying to get over that level. I also had that 770 level as well. If you draw a line there, you can see how in the after hours from that day, the price lost it. And then when it tried to recover, it was rejected and it went lower all the way into the following day and into to today. So, when it comes to levels that I'm looking for where the price could run up to and find resistance, it's all these previous levels that it's already hit in some of these previous days.
Good stuff there. And you can see that clear as day here, $8, or that 8 area, maybe not that round number, but that 8 area clearly providing resistance again here. You guys are mentioning that the SPY is turning down here. It's actually happening pretty quick. SPY is knifing here, looking like it's moving towards the day lows there. Tick minus 453 there too. S&P futures ticking down here on pretty decent volume as well. Did we get any news that accompanies this move? Let's see.
It's either going to be the Trump's approval rating headline, or it's going to be the Secretary Bessent comments. Time for China to graduate from developing country status. Yeah, that's what I do actually.
Yeah, I don't know if that would sink the market here, or these approval ratings too.
Well, I guess when I see a comment like that, it really
time out. Reading into this a little bit here, this looks like a clickbaity headline. I voted for Trump but disapprove of his first 100 days, 14%. I voted for Trump and have no strong opinion, 6%. So the two cohorts that actually matter here are really not showing a decline in his approval ratings. The people that already hate him, guess what? You didn't win them over. Not surprised at all.
It's okay. So the drop is that's being flagged by a producer here is Google and some other folks here in the chat. That's really getting hammered here on a new malware threat. That's just
good find. See, producer. See, this is why the producer needs to fast. We need to keep him hungry so that he stays sharp and he can find this stuff. Good stuff there, producer.
So yeah, I guess hey.
Lost keys.
What's that doing for CrowdStrike? Should be doing something, right? It doesn't look like it's doing anything. But anyway, so yeah, that sounds like a potential cybersecurity situation there. That
where's the buy spot on CrowdStrike? For any of you that are looking to trade CrowdStrike, where's the buy spot on? Is it 420?
We what? No, we talked about this like a moment ago. It's going to be down under 400, like around 395.
Okay. Now I'm just asking for different opinions here. I mean, I could also make the case for 415 on that.
What the 20-day SMA, or when that's above 400? I don't think that's the one you're referring to. Okay, so you're talking about like maybe the January high, that area. Kind of like the area where we were getting support after this move from April 23rd. That's been providing support for the price ever since getting up here. That 415.
Sorry, I started reading something. I didn't realize you were asking me.
Okay.
My bad, dude. I literally started reading the newsfeed on another stock. You were totally asking me a question there. Apologize.
I'm just asking where you're getting 415 from.
God, I'm so mixed up now here. Let me go back to CrowdStrike here real quick. Here's 415, dude. It is literally the bottom of the candle from April 30th. 415 and change. Bottom of the candle from April 30th. Bottom of the candle from April 25. Bottom of the candle from April 28. All right around 415 right there.
So you're speaking on this support turn, or this resistance turn support area, because on the 24th we broke through that, and ever since then it's been holding up at that 415 area.
So so let me amend this then, 13. I would say this is more of an area than a round number, and I would call that 410 to 415. Because that's also going to be the top that I think you had mentioned here from January 28th.
Yeah.
The previous resistance area that you had mentioned from January 28th. Okay. CrowdStrike, by the way, since that report here, CrowdStrike's actually rolled over a little bit.
GPUS also rolling over too.
Hey, CEP rolled over. Let's go.
Everything's rolling over.
Hey, how about that? How many of you folks are playing SQQQ? Because that's the play right here. I was actually just looking at TQQQ too. Wow, GPUS, you're right about that. That actually dropped VWAP there too.
Weball down also, getting support from the 65 EMA.
TQQQ, we are what, 70 cents away from VWAP? We got a ways to go here before this one's a buy. That SQQQ trade, if you've just been focusing on those, what on earth? If you had just been focusing on those, that one actually was pretty, I guess it didn't give you entry here today. Yeah, it wasn't really far enough away. Nice move there on SQQQ, but it really wasn't far enough away to play that same formation. Okay, let me see. Sorry, I'm all mixed up here. Let me go through the chat real quick. I'm for no kidding. Okay, caught up here. 2 minutes. We're actually going to go to the story trading guys here soon, and they're ready to go. At least 2 of them are ready to go. I can't wait to check in with them. 13. You got anything else? I mean, got anything else you want to cover here before we leave?
In 2 minutes? Nah. No, just folks. I mean, we're getting a sell-off here, so I think the TQQQ could be setting up for a really good trade.
Yeah.
The SQQQ is already on. Let's see, where are we at with the TQQQ anyway? So I have VUF at 57.16. We just went down to 56.37. That's almost $1. Trying to bounce right now. Maybe we get a little bit more to the downside, but before we see it reverse, and then there's going to be a good TQQQ trade to go on. So we'll see if we end up getting that. Folks, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Enjoy the next show. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well done, 13. I'll see you on happy hour later today. Really good stuff here. We'll catch up with you tomorrow. Okay, that is 13. We're going to bring Ben and Rhett on here in a sec. Really quickly, I just wanted to mention Michael saying trying to catch a bounce here on Google. What level are you trying to catch that? Is it 159? Is it maybe a little bit lower than that? You let me know. Kevin, thank you. Thanks for all your support. Amanda saying all you need lately is SQQQ and TQQQ. Indeed, that has actually allowed us to kind of navigate our way through this pretty crazy environment. Okay, that's enough for me. Let's go. Let me get rid of the screen share here. Let me bring on Ben. Let me bring on Rhett, and let me bring on the one and only Godfather. How are you folks doing here today? Happy Wednesday.
Doing great. Happy Wednesday. My trading account's at a new all-time high today. Getting a big boost from Webull. I don't know if you've been tracking Webull.
We have.
But,
I actually haven't been trading that myself, unfortunately, but there have been a number of folks trading that here. We actually talked about this today. Nice little intraday move here on Webull. Congrats. Feel like every time I see you, Ben, you're at new highs.
I am. I'm probably at this moment maybe 135 or 140%, moving in on 140% year to date.
Oh, you just love to see that, Ben. Let's go.
All right. Great. I mean, look, this volatility in QQQ to be expected. As I wrote in my morning note this morning, it's going to be a wild day today with so many major influences at beginning of the China talks, FOMC at 2 p.m. I was in SQQQ. You were talking about it earlier yesterday, but I sold it. I got out when that China news came out. So it's hard to play the headline. I have a very hard time playing the headlines. I think the Godfather knows does a much better job than me with those SQQQs and TQQQs, and you tend to ignore the noise, which is incredible. It's very hard to ignore the noise in this market. Those headlines are always seem very significant, so it really weighs on your decisions. But so I'm not doing that well, but I did have TLT, a big TLT, a hedge, or really a directional bet. It acts as a hedge lately, but it's a directional bet on maybe a dovish, hopefully a dovish Powell today at 2 p.m. So I've been taking profits on that on the way up. So I've been doing TLT well, the Qs not as well. And then we'll get into our individual stocks in a bit. Godfather, what's your take on the macro today?
Yeah, look, continues to be all about trade and tariffs. I think that will overshadow Powell again today. I am not optimistic about a dovish Fed. I think he's been pretty set in his ways, and I think all but the Fed speakers between the last time Powell spoke and the last Fed meeting have been pretty consistent in terms of their concern about stagflation being the biggest immediate threat. So I think to the extent that there's a bias one way or another, it will be more hawkish than the Fed thinks. If you look at Fed funds futures, we're pricing in a certain 3 and a possible 4 rate cuts this year. Well, we're already mid-May. That's over, it's 80 to 100 basis points. I think that's optimistic, frankly. And I think to get that and to get that sort of Fed put, you're going to have much lower market levels. I don't think we get that. I think we are done in terms of lows for the year. And I know that's probably the first time you've heard me say that, but yeah, I believe that we're sort of through the worst when it comes to the tariffs. I think that our view from the get-go that what was proposed as a beginning negotiating point was just and started to be factored in the market was just far too much. And I go back to the Goldman sort of view from the get-go. Look, if we got 10% tariffs, we'll still get 7% earnings growth this year. If the tariffs go up by an increment of 5%, that weighs on earnings by about 3%. So, look, we've had 75%, 76%, actually a little more than I've included yesterday, and probably about 80% of the S&P market cap report earnings. And they're tracking up 12% versus up 6% consensus. So, where does this all shake out? Well, it means that we're probably going to end up somewhere in that 5 to 10% earnings growth over, last year on the S&P. And yeah, I know that multiples aren't low, but if you've got a relatively constructive market backdrop and earnings growth is pacing, and the whole world order isn't going to change per Liberation Day, then I think the multiple will stay up. So that's why I think that we're going to hold. And I think in the second half of the year, you're going to see more tailwinds, big beautiful bill, tax cuts, bank regulation, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, sounds great. Rhett, you got any comments on the macro?
No, just watching right now. There's a few headlines. I mean, Google came out, Apple came out with that AI search that they were talking about, so that's dragging Google down.
Maybe I was looking at that. Google's down. It's funny. Is it so? Google's down 4.5%. Did that cause QQQ to go down, which then also caused Apple to go down because now Apple's 1%?
Yeah. But then at the same time, too, around the same time, someone posted in our Discord just now, nuclear war can break out at any time in case of this with this India war and all that. So maybe that, I don't know. I got to look into it more.
See a pop in gold if that were the fear. Don't see that pop in
Complete
gold right
and
now.
utter bullshit.
What, the nuclear warfare?
I mean, come on. Okay, yes, India and Pakistan are both nuclear armed countries.
And as I say,
anyway, sorry. These regional tensions in Kashmir have been going on that border since the beginning of time. This is absolutely nothing new. It's not going to happen.
I don't think
market sells off on that. You buy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's a real fear anyway, because you would have seen gold pop. But if it was, you always buy fears about nuclear war, because if there is nuclear war, all right, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. So what are you trying to do by playing the market? It doesn't matter, all right? Like the world's going to shit anyway. And if there's not nuclear war, then when you buy the dip, you're going to make money when it rebounds. So you always buy fears of nuclear war. Your little digits in your brokerage account will mean nothing if there's a nuclear war. All right, so let's see here. We're having a good time. I got to start with hymns. I got to give big kudos to the Godfather Knows. I mean, this was a good teamwork. Last week, I was pounding the table on this big time. Got some nice video clips. Even here on the Benzinga show was talking about it, how this initial drop was just BS and the analysts were like messing with you. There are a couple of downgrades after that Nova Nordis news. I'm like, what the hell? These people are thieves. You want to buy that dip. I ended up, for whatever reason, I have this in my long-term account, and maybe I was just distracted with other plays, but I didn't really play this in my short-term account. A little bit here or there, made a few $1,000, but big kudos to the Godfather Knows, especially after the earnings report when it was down. Man, you had this great, it was late, it was like 7 p.m., and you're like, this down move doesn't make sense. Watch for, hymns to pop tonight and tomorrow morning. There's going to be a short squeeze. It just doesn't make sense. Otherwise, there has to be a short squeeze. I mean, that was an incredible call. The Godfather Knows. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, look, I went home. I wasn't feeling well, and I actually was asleep, and I set an alarm to be awake for the earnings. And when they came and I saw the earnings reaction was down, I was auditing the conference call on the, at the same time, and I'm like, look, it's what you said. Every single pillar of the short strategy here is continuing to break away. The fears over litigation, the fears over competition from big pharma. They're basically being embraced. And when Andrew said, "Look, we are an agnostic platform. We're here to give choice to the consumer, whether that's generics, whether that's custom compounded within the regulations, whether that's branded." And that's across the board. That's not just on weight loss, but that's where everyone's focused these days. And I'm like, this is nuts. You got a 33% short interest. The company has no debt. There's no natural hedge in the market for this thing. So, I bought some at 39.66 to add to the position that I already had. I continued to buy it as you went up. And, my view was that the guys that have large short positions going to want to lean on this to make it seem like the numbers aren't that great. But the court of public opinion, the Rubicon had been crossed, in my opinion, in terms of the validity of their flywheel. They're showing it on all the metrics. They're showing it on ASPs. Yes, they're going to come down a little bit in Q2 just as you get this transition, but it's going to climb over time because you're going to add more and more brandeds, and they're going to do more deals like they've done with Novo. So all of that increases ASPs on the website, and they're adding products, right? They're adding depth of products, the testing, the peptides, all the rest of it. I'm a firm believer in the business model and their first mover, bigger wins. So for all of those reasons, I think it's well embraced by the consumer. And look, I kept saying, guys in the Discord were like, well, where does it go from here? Where does it go from here? I'm like, it grinds higher. It grinds higher because the short interest is going to have to work off. Yes, I know it's a high multiple stock, but the short interest is going to have to work off. That's going to be your near-term driver, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing play out in the market.
And one of the things you just mentioned there, that it's well embraced by their users or whatever. That was one of the reasons I was really bullish on this back in single digits, when one of the bear theses was that, Amazon can just come in and disrupt their business and they have no moat. Everyone's like, they have no moat. And I was like, dude, their brand is their moat. Like for me personally, I do make a lot of decisions just based on brand and brand awareness and brand market share. And I just perceived, based on conversations I've had with people, opinions people had about Hims, that this is a very, very strong brand, and Amazon's not going to be able to disrupt them. And that's their moat, And I really
and they hired the guy leading the Amazon initiative as a new COO. So what does that tell you? What he thinks about who's winning the race?
So yeah, I've been in Hims since like single digits. Wow. So anyway. Great call. That was great teamwork. We both had really good insights on Hims over the last week, helping our community out, make good money on that. All right, we got to go to Bull. This is what's driving my account mostly today to all-time new highs. This is crazy. I mean, we can talk about the warrants a little bit if you want. The Godfather knows that was all you, focusing on the warrants. But for the last week or so, I've been focused on the common shares, trying to find where the turnaround is. And I got to say, I think we pretty much nailed it. On Friday afternoon, I gave an alert out at $14, and I'm like, the bottom's in, let's go. This is epic. I mean, this thing can squeeze to that 20 DMA pretty quickly, $21.40, $21. Right here, there's a very key resistance at 1669. You can see that was the high of the day on April 11th, and it actually got resisted right there at 1670. Again on one of these days here on May 5th. So key inflection point at 1670. Very high volume today. It went over it, back under it, playing with it. Now it's above it right this second. To me, this feels like this is legitimate. I feel like this is enough here. This 1670 break, even though it's going back above it, below it, above it, I think this is enough. Rhett and the Godfather knows, you can both comment on this one here from a technical perspective. But I think there's a very high chance that we're going to see a big move to $21. What do you guys think? Let's start with the Rhett on this one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, looking at the chart, I think we definitely could see $21. I mean, we're going to have a little bit of resistance coming up around, I think it was like around 1850, right around there. So, I mean, if we definitely get a break above that, we could see 21.45, right around that area.
And Godfather knows, I know you look at positioning a lot, and you've been looking at the shares outstanding and some other things when you consider price action. What do you think? Do you think this is the bottom? We're going to get the big breakout, or is it going to be sold off here?
Yeah. So as you know, last weekend I spent a bunch of time going through the filings again and trying to figure, because we're trying to figure out why is this thing down every single day. And, they just completed the deal, and normally there are IPO lockups on these things, but a SPAC has different rules. If you go through it and you look at, the existing shares outstanding that were in the SPACs, like 5.8 million, but then you look at the vended shares and what was actually released on consummation of the transaction. And this is where the stock is all coming from. If you total everything up, it was like 125 million shares. So I went through and I looked at the average volume per day and the number of days it's traded since, and sort of, I took an eyeball to say, okay, well, how much of this is probably coming from the insiders and how much of this is just day-to-day trade back and forth? And I came to the conclusion that based on the cadence of selling that we'd seen, we probably had one more week left of selling. And so, that would end this week. So here we are, pacing into the middle of the week, and there seems to be less and less pressure on the stock. So I think it's part of that. I think it's really that. A lot of that stuff is very low cost base, so they're pretty price agnostic, and I think they've just been pounding the stock. But as that dries up, stock has a chance to respond here. And I have some other thoughts on the fundamental basis that I did to complement your guys' work on the technicals, but I'll save that for our Discord.
But
all those common spreadsheets are in the due diligence folder.
Is there, though, a chance of selling pressure coming back next week when warrants become exercisable? Is that a concern?
For sure. For sure. I see a lot of posts in the Discord about folks indicating that whatever brokers they use, there's no borrower available. So, there's options listed on this thing now. So there are ways to get hedged. But look, I used to run a risk arbitrage desk. I can tell you that these guys don't like to leg into transactions, certainly at size. They'll do it for minimal size, but you want to be secure. So we're getting close, right? May 12th is right around the corner. So Monday. Starting next week. Yeah. All right. So starting next week, I don't know what to say about those borrow numbers. They seem to be all over the map. One day there's no borrow and it's like 300 CTB, and the next day there is. So in any event, yes, there will be natural pressure to hedge, and to the extent that there's an arbitrage there, it will get arbed out because it's on everyone's radar screen.
Yeah, I think an ideal situation for me would be if we can hit that target before Monday. So it's Wednesday. We got another 2.5 days. If we can get to like 20 or the 19s before Monday, I might just be all out. I don't know how you feel about it. I think I might be all out. And looking at the chart, there is definitely the possibility that it could, break 20 and make a move to 25. But to me, that's the ideal scenario. Get to 2021 by Friday afternoon. Any thoughts on that plan?
I think you're at those levels. You're starting to challenge fundamental value, so I would concur.
Yeah, let's hope that happens. All right, so we're rooting for that. All right. Anyway, did we got to move down finally on ASST? I don't know if anyone wants to talk about that. You can't be out. WRD was their play of the day yesterday for me. WRD and HIMS were the two plays of the day. Godfather gets full credit for the HIMS one. WRD, I think someone, I don't know who initially mentioned it, but if it wasn't me, I jumped on it. And we really nailed the dip yesterday, right around here, like in the low 7s on WRD. And I'm staying with it right now because on the daily chart, this just looks beautiful with a break above the 20 DMA, RSI relatively low, with a partnership with Uber, and then Pony, a similar situation. Partnership with Uber is already with a high RSI and broke all these key moving averages. So I thought there could be a little bit of a catch-up play here, which did work out yesterday on WRD. Pulling back today, but I'm still in the trade.
Yep, me too. I haven't sold a share. In fact, I bought some weakness here today. Look, I looked at both of these companies on a fundamental basis when I was valuing the Avride division of NBIS. And by the way, 10% move on getting Bezos to invest into Loka. That's their data AI sub. That's nothing. Goldman Sachs has a mandate to
did we just switch to NBIS?
Value. Pardon me? I'm talking about NBIS just for a second here, because their Avride division, their autonomous driving division, is direct comp to Pony AI and WRD. So NBIS moved 10% on the Bezos investment into Lika. I did the valuation of that division in NBIS. I think it's worth around $8 to $10 in NBIS share, by the way, and Goldman has a mandate to surface value there. Uber, by the way, previously had an investment in that division, but they had to exit it when that whole Russian thing happened. So it's possible, although they seem to be doing, JVs with the likes of Pony and others in various jurisdictions. So it's still, within the realm or scope of possibility. One way or another, people will come to realize the value that's hidden in that. But needless to say, China, because of the lesser regulation, or I guess more control over things from a federal level, has permitted their autonomous efforts to actually lead what we're seeing in a real world basis in the US. So there's a lot more miles being driven by the WRD and the Pony technology in China than we've seen, in the US as a result of, they're being a little bit more flexible. So it's their autonomous technology is very, very good. I don't see any difference. I'm not, a level of an expert to determine any difference necessarily between Pony AI and WRD. I think some are more advanced than others in terms of their strategic relationships. One's more advanced into the trucking versus, passenger commuting or robotaxi side of things. But I still think that this is going to be, a big theme along the lines of AI, of course, going forward. So to the extent that things thaw in China in terms of relations, and, we saw a big move in BABA yesterday when it came out that, China and the US are going to meet in Switzerland to start talking. I think that this could be a further boon to, Chinese stocks in general. So A, it's an incredibly important hot sector, and B, I think in general, there's going to be a tailwind back to China here. And your point, I think, is very good. If you compare these two, we've saw big turn off the bottom on Pony, and I guess a lot of that is thanks to the Uber news. But I think there's a lot of catch up to be done on WeRide, and there's plenty of scope there, as you mentioned, in terms of technical indicators, RSIs, et cetera, to indicate that this move is probably just beginning.
Yeah, I'm about right now 25% of my account is in these two Chinese stocks, Webull and WeRide, which is something because I basically have like a no China policy, but I made exceptions because this is Webull. You're looking at Webull desktop right now, and it's my favorite app. I used to use the TD Ameritrade app, TDA app mobile. It was great. It was beautiful. I don't know if anyone remembers that. And they got bought by Schwab, and they shut it down. And
that was devastating.
Oh, you were also on TDA?
Yeah, back in the day. Yep.
That was a beautiful, clean interface, awesome news feed. Still, actually, none of the news feeds are as good as the TDA app news feed. But I spent like a long, long time looking for a good trading app to do my show with. And I settled in on Webull, and I'm a big Webull fan. Although their news feed not as good. I'm actually starting to use Benzinga Pro right now, testing it out for the past week or so. So I'm using Benzinga Pro to complement Webull's other great features. But in any case, making a China exception here for Webull, and then WeRide because of that validation or that endorsement from Uber. So it's about 25% of my trading account right now. You got to know when to lean into things. Let's see. All right, we'll see what happens there. All right, we're running out of time here. I know we got 10 minutes left, but what else can we talk about here?
I think we should talk about some upcoming earnings, right?
Yeah, well, let's see if we have time. I just want to give you a big kudos to EOSE in our Discord right before the open. You gave us an alert on EOSE. You listened to the conference call. You're like, I like this for the long term, and boom, up 27%. So look at that value you get in our Discord. We'll leave the details for folks to join us in our Discord. Just go to storytrading.com/Discord.
Yeah, we actually called that before earnings. So we got into that yesterday. So yeah.
You did. I didn't listen to you. Those listen to the Godfather knows. Got it.
There's a lot of earnings. You can't kiss all the girls. It's been very busy.
I did trade it after a little bit this morning. Made a little bit of money. OppFi, did you listen to the 9 a.m. conference call? I haven't had a chance.
I haven't because, again, it's been, hot and heavy with earnings. There's a large position. I stepped back in and started buying the warrants, when we had the Liberation Day weakness. I got some at 150. I got a big chunk in the 170 to 190 range. We're here back around 270. I did a quick scan of the numbers. I saw the guidance increase. Everything that you look for was there. The balance sheet continues to improve. They continue to increase their scope in terms of loans actually made and their financing ability to do those. And look, this is like any other financial. This is a net interest margin story. So to the extent that you get steepness in the yield curve, it benefits these guys. And the biggest driver, of course, which is consumer debt. And incredibly high credit card rates. We're still at record highs on credit card rates, are driving this. So yeah, it continues to show itself as being an exceptional performer. You know, there's been missteps by LC. They got crushed on their earnings. I think Lending Tree even got crushed on their earnings. But these guys come out with flying colors. So it's a founder-operated, founder-led company, and they continue to expand as well into small, medium-sized business, which is a lower risk vertical than these. How should we say, less than prime customers of theirs.
So OppFi on this one, I did give an alert to our community, Discord community this morning. I was looking at those earnings, and right around 10:30, gave an alert to get in. There was plenty of time. I was buying through 10:55, kept telling people to do that. And then I gave a initial resistance at 10:75, which we hit. So I sold about half of my shares at 10:75. So more value there. There was a lot of things going on this morning. Can't cover it all. Porsche, great earnings last night, but it exceeded my expectations. There's probably something I don't know about this company in terms of poor sentiment going in, because the re-rating here is far exceeding their guidance increase versus estimates, which was about 8% or up 52%. Too much. We can't talk about Disney great earnings. All right, let's go quickly. I wanted to cover very fast. What did I want to cover? You wanted to cover ERs. We'll do that in a second, but I think there was one more here. No, let's go. So you wanted to cover ERs, right?
But I just want to talk about a number of the names that we follow that are reporting here that are important. Root being one of them. Sezzle is on my list as well. SEZL. Spire Global. I gave the thesis for that in the Discord yesterday. SPIR. These are all names coming out after the close today, and then after the close tomorrow, you're going to get Sezzle Comp Affirm. You're going to get Real. The Real. We have a thesis in our Discord on that based on the strength that we saw out of ThreadUp, TDUP. There's a tailwind to thrifting as apparel costs across the board go up with tariffs. The de minimis exemption closure really providing a tailwind to the ThreadUp business. You look at where Real was trading around January, February. Now and again, you come into our Discord and you can see the fundamental work that I've done suggesting where it should trade relative to average.
You predicted that sympathy move on Real. So good job on that.
I'm shocked that it's up only 3% today. I really am. I think there's a great opportunity. Been buying it all day. But wow. Yeah, come to the Discord and you can see the full valuation analysis, which shows where I think this thing could go. So there you go. Question I just think it just came up here about whether the Discord is part of Benzinga. So maybe it's a good time for Rhett to talk about how folks can get onto our Discord.
Yeah, of course. So people can get onto our Discord by going to both of our handles that you see on the Godfather Knows and Ben's right there, at Smantle and Story Trading. And the links are going to be in our bio. You click those and then you can sign up. And I think we actually have a link code for Benzinga, and it's just been, I think it's BZ Show. Not sure how much is on that left, but we're not really doing any more promo codes. So you can use code BZ Show, and I don't know how much that's off.
And hey, been a while. Hey, if you want it to be part of the Benzinga universe, Ryan, you just tell Jason Raznick to give me a call, and we can talk about that. Maybe we'll make that happen. All right. Anyway, let's see. What else we got going on here? My favorite ERs that I'm focused on is TMDX, PBI, Root, and Kodak. Those are the four. I actually still don't have a position in Root. I have it. It's a top 5 position in my retirement account, but in my trading account, don't have a position. But TMDX, PBI, and Kodak, I have positions in all of those. That's tonight and tomorrow on those. So pretty excited about that. We'll see what happens. Mind, by the way, the Godfather knows I've not heard you talk about Mind a lot. We were both on the same page, banging the table on this. I still haven't sold out since the earnings report. Got a big bounce, but I've been waiting for more. I don't know. It's been consolidating. Starting to get a little impatient. What do you think? Should I be greedy and wait for more or take my profits? So I was in this before the earnings report. So what do you think of that?
Well, look, I mean, it's an opportunity cost market with a lot of things moving, and I think that's why it's not like it's been underperforming here, right? We're up 3% today. Fundamental value in this is double digits. I think it's going to get there. I think folks have been focused on the big moves, on the big cap names. And earnings season is a big distraction. They've already reported, so this isn't that topical. I haven't been adding, but I haven't been selling. And the only reason I haven't been adding is because I've been using that capital for these trading opportunities.
Yeah.
This is a unique situation where we haven't had a constructive market backdrop that coincides with some pretty good positioning going into earnings. So it's been difficult to play earnings. It's always difficult to play earnings, but it's been especially difficult because, like the first quarter, the market was at record highs. A lot of these stocks were going into earnings at record highs. Multiples were at all-time highs. Good earnings were, of course, getting sold as a result of that. So, here we've got names that are down 20, 30% thanks to, tariff fears going into earnings. And, like I said, when I recapped, the earnings year to date, we're beating on average expectations. So that's where I've been focused. I think that's where the market's been focused, but it takes nothing away from mind. This company is effectively for sale, by the way. It does not exist as a standalone company in 12 months, in my opinion. It's worth $10. I think our strategic takes it out.
Nice.
It's market leading technology and a small cap company. This is a fabulous add-on for Schlumberger or Halliburton or any of the big dogs providing seismic services. So, I could talk for a half an hour on that name, but it should be in everybody's long-term portfolio.
But we don't have a half hour.
Yeah. Give us more time, Ryan. We want another show. I want my own show.
Totally makes sense. All right, boys, how did it go here today?
Great.
Oh, you weren't watching? It was great.
I was. I'm asking you how you think it went. I'm asking you to self-grade instead of me grading you.
Self-grade. I always self-grade myself at 100.
More important, you don't leave any room for improvement. Tisk, 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 Ben. There's a way to go do that a little bit better. Look, I did want to ask you guys before we depart here for today, any predictions on what the market's going to do after the Fed today?
I mean, look, I'm probably going to sell. I already took some profits on TLT. I sold half. I'm probably going to sell the other half before, but I'm not going to predict. I'm going to react.
That's exactly the answer I'd hoped for.
I mean, there's always room, especially on TLT. It could have explosive moves if we do get some dovish talk, from the Fed. But I have no idea what it's going to say.
Yeah, me either. I've had a really tough time predicting it, so I'm with you. I'm going to react.
Did you notice how much Trump and Bessent and the rest of the administration were jawboning the market higher yesterday? They're extremely cocky in all these interviews. They know something. They know that there's a big deal coming, right? So to the extent
probably
that the
more
market
than one,
is
to be quite
at
honest
all
with you,
as a result of people not getting what they want from Powell, and I don't think they're going to get what they want from Powell. They're going to continue doing what they're doing because the tariff stick is bigger than the Fed stick right now in terms of market
indeed
sentiment.
it is. And this is going to set up for an epic cage match that we, of course, when that happens, we will broadcast here in Benzinga. You guys, great stuff here. We'll check in with you next week. All right.
Cheers.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
I'm going to try to not remove myself here this time. That is Ben, Rhett, and Godfather from Story Trading, friends of Benzinga. They're really awesome stuff. They do a great job here. Folks, that's going to be it for today. I'm going to send you over to Futures Fever with Kevin, who also does a great job here today as we get you prepared for the Fed meeting today. Remember, we are going to be broadcasting that as well. We'll be back tomorrow to break down all of the different movements. Stay green, stay safe, stay focused. We'll see you tomorrow.